good to look
And
at.
what time? What run time are we shooting for? Like 3
Yeah.
hours?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it'll be however long it takes, but
It takes as long as it takes.
We're not going to be here at 6.
Yeah.
Good.
No, I will throw a fit probably if we're here till 5. To be honest with you, so.
Well, it's your call, man. You can just end it, and that'll.
Yeah, it is literally your call. It is your Skype call. All
Is
right,
that Skype works?
We should
No,
get
'cause
going.
me and
We
Jacob
are.
keep
We
talking.
are. I did click the stream button, so we are theoretically live.
Oh, jeez.
You're supposed to tell us that,
I need to
dude.
sit up straight. I know. What if I didn't have my shirt on?
I mean, well, I don't know what to tell you guys.
Maybe that's how we get the views.
Since we're
I
doing
think
this
that's how you get banned off Twitch.
informal intro thing. Well, that's what every other fucking podcast does, is just click live, and they don't do the show thing. But I like the show thing because it gives us a nice, concise time frame to hit for, so we aren't here for 3 or 4 hours a week.
Right.
Yeah, because we totally would be.
So, there we go. Oh, shit. Looks like we are.
Yep.
Why? Why not?
My fucking
Well, okay
cats
then.
won't stop
I've been
fucking with the tree. John, do you and Susie put up a Christmas tree?
Nope.
It's probably
Goddamn
wise.
heathens.
Fucking cats won't stop screwing with it.
Yeah, I don't like, maybe if our house was better, I think we might be more interested in decorating.
Well, a Christmas tree might spruce it up a little bit.
Ha! I get it.
It's not going to
Spruce.
create heat downstairs, so
Unless you catch it on fire, which is known to happen.
man.
Are you pining for him to get a tree?
I don't care one way or the other. I was gonna commiserate with him about cats fucking with Christmas trees, but he doesn't put one up. So
Well, I don't own a cat either, so
I thought you had a cat.
no, I have dogs. I'm allergic to cats.
That's right.
They make me die.
I forgot about that.
All right, so we gonna actually start this thing here.
We are started.
Yeah, no, we're sorry, I was just advertising everywhere, and Bachmano in chat says, maybe watch an ad, I feel violated. Twitch made you watch an ad.
Yeah,
We had
I
nothing
had to
to
watch
do
an
with
ad
that.
too.
If
I have
there's
to
a-
stream up.
If there's a no ad feature to Twitch, that's a button I can press, then someone
There
needs
is
to point that
almost
out to me.
assuredly not.
Yeah. There's probably a button I can press to make more ads happen, I'm sure.
And for what it's worth, we don't see a nickel. That all goes to Twitch.
It would be nice if... okay, no.
Which is to say, it all goes to Amazon, which is also awful at showing ads on Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a Kindle Fire on sale because they were like $25, and they need to do a much better job of pointing. I figured, like, I'll just turn off Alexa, cover up the camera, cover up the mic, all that shit, so I don't just have a hot mic hanging out in my house all the time. They didn't tell me, or I'm sure they did, probably because they legally have to, but it was not clear enough that that thing is ad supported. That your home screen always has an ad, and it uses the mic and the camera to tailor ads to you.
Ugh.
And you can't turn it off. That's why it's $25. Not happy. So it's completely off and under a couch cushion whenever I'm not using it.
Fellas, my recording stopped.
Oh.
Neat.
And I think I know why. Because it told me I'm out of disk space.
Oh. Hey, you
So do we
don't
just
have to
wanna-
keep an archive of any of your old audio files?
But I save them. It's weird. It must be saving to... Because I have a second volume that I actually export to, and that's got plenty of space. But I guess as it's saving as it's recording. And I
There's
have
a
space
tip
there.
folder in there, so once we're going to have to restart our recording. We can just stay on the stream and live, but we'll need to restart the recording whenever you get your stuff sorted out. Man,
Okay,
that's...
but there's got to be a way to change where that temp file saves to.
Yeah, there usually is.
Yeah, Bakemono, I'm going to try and find out where the actual physical mic is in there and just see if I can crack that bastard open and just disconnect it physically.
Yeah, so Giant Bomb had a podcast, or maybe it was a Giant Beast cast, where Dan Reichert was talking about his
He was like, Alexa, what is
Home.
rain?
Well, and they literally had the thing read, like, because it saved, like, WAV files or some shit of him giving him commands, and they had it play back him giving those commands, and that has guaranteed I will never own one of these things.
Yeah, I mean, I when it is not literally in my hands and being used, I shut it off completely. But I don't know. Like, I know I'm being a paranoid asshole, but that's explicitly what they're doing with this price point.
Yeah.
I would never get a dot or one of those things that, yeah, you plug it in, just leave it, and it's on all the time. Like, no, fuck that. So I didn't want to connect.
Yeah, I don't. My dad got an Alexa recently, so
I gotta put predications.
All right. I have it putting the session data on a nice big free disk space.
okay.
So we can restart.
Okay, so let me get mine all nice and.
That would almost certainly explain why my recordings are cutting out.
Yeah, that's got to be it. That's the most sensical thing. So, Jake, are you still there?
Yeah, I stopped and Control-Z'd and I'm ready to record.
Okay.
So Bakemono got the inside look at stuff that's not going to be on the recording we put out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, honestly, we're kind of like every other podcast right now to a degree, but maybe not. No, that's a lie, because TVGP does theirs beforehand. Bamfcaps just does a clap so he knows when the podcast actually starts. So, okay, no, I'm okay. Those are the only two podcasts in the world besides Giant Bomb, so.
Terry Gross, they do a clap on Fresh Air.
Okay. Okay, let's get start recording in 3, 2, 1, record.
Yep. Check. Okay.
Check.
All right, can we start
2.
this fucking thing already?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Well, that should. Hey, at least I caught that before we were 3 hours done with a podcast.
This will make the editing at the start a lot easier. So.
The Bears start in 2 hours. Need to watch them lose.
Okay, I'm gonna clap so I get an audio spike, and then I'm gonna read. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Welcome to the carousel where we just. And that was too loud. I saw my mic spike.
Oh my
you wanted
God.
a spike.
Dude, it's been a problem on. Okay, this is just super behind the scenes. It's been a problem on nearly all our podcasts is that I always fucking spike the mic at the beginning, so I need to back off when I say welcome. Okay.
Yeah, do one of these. Lean back.
Okay. Welcome to the.
Jesus, come on, guys.
I'm sorry, Jake. Welcome to the carousel where we discuss video games, movies, sometimes comic books, and whatever awful things those conversations lead to. Welcome to our Favorites of the Year podcast. Whereas normally we stream every other week at 8 p.m. Central, today we are streaming on Saturday to talk about our favorite games, TV, and movies of 2017. So with me I have Randy.
He is waving.
Yes, that's me. Hi.
He has no regard for his computer equipment, and he had a cigar in his mouth.
And we have Jake.
Yes, we're back with 2017's edition of Reasons to Have Not Killed Yourself in the last 11 and a half months.
Jeez.
So these are what's keeping you holding on.
That's every year of my life. I mean,
That's it. These are the only.
it's not a political statement. We're just a very depressed crowd.
Yeah, so this is probably going to get broken up into probably 2 casts. My guess is that movies and TV will probably be one, and then the video games will come out separately a day or 2 later.
Yeah,
I would bet.
and that I think that's also nice for people since they can just I would like them to listen to everything we do, but realistically they could just tune in for whichever one they're more interested in. So.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just do. We should do one that's the intro in the first half of the movies, and then the next one is the movies, and the first half of the TV, and then it's TV in the first half of video games. So it's like that. What the fuck?
Force them to expand their horizons and.
Right. If you break it down right, we've also got 6 weeks of content. So.
Wait, really?
Well, if you break it down right.
Okay, well, let's get
Okay.
this thing started. So we're going to open up with movies, and then we're going to go to TV and then video games. So,
Not like runtime, like you could. Anyway,
okay. So I'm going to start with the movies.
do it.
So, my favorite movies of the year. I got a top 10 going. The number 10 is Wonder Woman. So, they...
Really?
Like
Clocking in at 10.
Huh?
Clocking in at 10. I would have
Yeah.
thought higher. All right.
No, I didn't. I liked it. I didn't like it. Okay, so we'll see.
I
Like the
have
bottom
now seen this as
3,
well.
4 of these movies on my list are movies I like. But if there had been like it was a good year for movies, but it wasn't a good enough year that I have a bunch of like awesome movies through the entire list. So like the bottom 3 or 4 are I'm gonna get some shit over, but that's fine.
Okay, well, anyway, yeah, Wonder Woman.
So Wonder Woman, I thought it was good. I thought it was fun. I'm gonna sound passive aggressive about it. I'm sorry. They made a DC movie. They made a movie where it looked like Gal Gadot is actually decent at acting. And it's just a good, solid movie with some fun moments and some good character work. And I hope they can somehow make the sequel as good.
Well, it's certainly the most enjoyable of these new DC
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah, I guess. I just wish that she wasn't such a fucking idiot and that she didn't have to just go fuck up whatever the man pointed her at. And by the man, I don't mean like the government. I mean like the literal man standing next to her.
Well, that's kind of her comic character.
I know. I can't wait for her to be, 95 years later and not just fucking dumb.
Yeah. I don't know.
She's fucking dumb in that movie, dude. Like, and that.
Well,
I guess
her
that's the whole
upbringing
thing.
was all swords and shields
that's
on an
the-
isolated
You
island.
try being raised by a clan of women fighters whose main move is bending over backwards to fight people.
And who apparently have made no advancements in 2,000 years, right? Like they live like the Greeks.
Yeah. But
Hey, if you got it right, why fuck with it?
anyway,
Exactly.
so number 9 is Thor Ragnarok. It's a really funny movie. I think the moments with Anthony Hopkins have really good gravitas. I think I was arguing for the movie originally to be, that was a pure comedy, but I think after reading some articles and really thinking about the Odin moments in that movie, like those don't really have much humor in them. But overall, I think it's a great movie. It feels like the best Chris Hemsworth movie. And it's got some shit to say. So, number 8. I promise you guys, this is not a troll. I'm going to take a lot of shit for this one. I'm just a fanboy. Like, Ghost in the Shell. This is mainly just because I love Ghost in the Shell, period. I think if I did not love Ghost in the Shell, that this movie wouldn't be on my list. Maybe I'd be in the same camp with everyone else. I know it has some problems, but for me, it's like it recreates these classic scenes from the anime that are just fucking awesome to look at in live action. I think they did a good job translating a lot of that stuff to the screen. But it is what it is. Everyone can be mad. Everyone's gonna be mad at me about my list anyway today, so whatever.
I'm not mad about that.
I've been arguing with Zelda fans the last 2 days online. I feel like everyone's gonna be mad at me over everything I say. So
Oh my God, John.
I know.
Yeah, I was thinking about that last night. I think Polygon Heads. It's coming up later, but I think Polygon Head Zelda is their number one. I was like, oh, John's not putting it there, and he's gonna get some shit.
No, I knew it's gonna be number one on most of the world's list. That's the popular thing. So anyway, so number 7, Logan. They finally let Hugh Jackman play Wolverine because he was just kind of marketing guy with claws in all the other X-Men movies, in my opinion. So. I felt this was a really good, heart-wrenching, good, dark Wolverine story. You got to see Wolverine struggle with his morality, which I think has always been a huge core to that character, and where the movies were just like, hey, let's skip over that and make him the moral center. And it's like, no, that's not... The X-Men work best as a team, and Wolverine works best as this loose cannon, like, morality questioning kind of thing. The girl they got to play X-23 I thought was fucking phenomenal. All of her scenes were great. Although I don't think any of the bad guys were threatening in and of themselves, the main point was they really just needed to get away to live some sort of peaceful life. And they had a lot of factors, I think, contributing into that. So I think it's a real good movie. So you can hold your tongue, Jake. You can.
Yep, I'm being very judiciously quiet.
Okay, so here's where my list starts getting a little weird, if it isn't already to you. So number 6, Mommy Dead and Dearest. This is a
The fuck is that?
This is a documentary I saw on HBO. It is about a story that is fucking insane. It is absolutely insane. It involves a girl who has some... I'm trying to think of an interesting way to say this. I can't remember if the description of it saves it. But basically it's about a girl and her mom, and the girl's mom is murdered. And it's about who murdered the mom and why, and it's about the girl's upbringing. And like almost every step in that documentary is just like, this is why people don't trust anyone. Just because everything is so batshit fucking insane with like what the mother did.
Oh my god. Okay, so it says right here, like on IMDb, there's a one-line synopsis. I mean, it takes up 2 lines, but it's one sentence, and it says right there who did the murder.
Okay.
Really, guys?
Okay. Well, it is what it is. Like, the whys of the murder are equally as important. Like, they unfold this thing pretty well, and granted, you gotta like documentaries to like it, but I'm not a huge documentary fan, and that thing just had me, like, every 10 minutes I was like, what the fuck? So, anyway. Number 5. I don't feel at home in this world anymore. This is a weird movie on Netflix, a Netflix original. I can't remember the main ladies who starred in it, but it co-stars Elijah Wood. It kind of feels like a Coen Brothers movie, except a little bit more sensical and more of a story than they usually do things with. Maybe easier to understand would be the better way to phrase that. But it was a movie that I don't think hit for a lot of people. For me, I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed a lot of the absurdities of the situations. I liked some of the odd levity and the strange amount of violence that's present in portions of the movie. It just like some really weird, crazy things. Like the girl's laptop gets stolen and she can't get the cops to go after it, and she sees the signal, so her and her crazy neighbor like just go to the place that has the laptop and then start tracking down who stole the laptop and why, kind of thing. And it's
She was burgled.
yeah, I think it's a fun story. Okay, so now here's where I'm probably going to get to the things people are more expecting. But number 4, Baby Driver. Man, that movie has some fucking phenomenal car scenes. It's I love the way all the characters in that movie are presented. I really kind of just fall back to my initial takeaway was that they introduce each character one dimension at a time. So you think this character's this stereotype, and then they say, no, this is still a human being, so let's add this thing to it. I think, you know, the only character who's fairly one note is Jamie Foxx's and John Bernthal's.
Yeah, but they're never around enough really to get the development.
Is
But
John
they're more like plot
Bernthal
pieces.
like is he in like a house arrest except for the city of Atlanta? Because it seems like every TV show he makes is set in Atlanta.
Well, they make a lot of TV shows there.
Yeah. But
I only saw the first 6.5 whatever minute scene, and I literally just watched it like 5 minutes before we started. Man, if the rest of that movie is anything like that first scene, yeah, I'm watching that.
It's pretty good. I will say the third act isn't what I wanted it to be, but it's still good. which I won't dive any further into that. But it's, I'm a firm believer in that no matter how how good anything is, it can still be criticized. You can still find things wrong with it, and they still matter to an extent in terms of making a better thing.
Well, nothing's perfect, right?
And I realize a lot of people are just like, they want to throw a lot of that stuff out on the things that they really love, and I disagree with that philosophy entirely, if it is a philosophy. But maybe standard.
Yeah, I think it's called being shitty. I think that's the name of the philosophy.
Theirs or mine?
Yours and mine. I too am guilty of being shitty.
Is it being? I don't think it's being shitty. I think it's just acknowledging that the hyperbole doesn't do us a lot of good except to celebrate. I think a lot of the times critical conversation is way more important than praise. But anyway, Baby Driver is a fucking phenomenal movie. Edgar Wright is a master of his craft.
He's really good.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. So
It's got Kevin Spacey though. You can't watch it anymore.
I'll just I'll download the digital version and edit that 15 minutes out that he said.
Okay.
Let's see. So number 3, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I really love Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I actually like it better than the first one.
See, I wasn't in love with 2.
I just, with Yondu's story in it, with kind of Rocket coming to terms with being an asshole, with Kurt Russell is always entertaining. Of course, the music was great.
Well, yeah.
But they just had so many good moments. They made Nebula a good character. They had good, like a genuinely good sister scene between Nebula and Gamora. And they retroactively made the first movie have more depth.
They made the first movie better with character development.
They fast-fived the first movie.
That's true. Because Nebula basically had no character development in the first one.
And
I
Gamora
I didn't
barely
even know who the actor was.
Gamora didn't even really. I mean, she wasn't anything except for Star-Lord's, object of desire, in that first movie. So
she had her own.
Kicked a lot of ass, man.
She had her own
Did
motivation, at least.
Because the way I remember it is she got tripped by Star-Lord at the beginning and eventually bagged, and then she got saved by Star-Lord at least twice in that movie.
Maybe it's been a long time since I saw it.
Anyway, I know a lot of people still like that first one better. I liked the first one. I always had some issues with it. And granted, Guardians 2 isn't perfect. Like, that warp drive scene was really dumb. I really don't like that scene.
Which one?
The
Their faces
cartoony
are all
one.
getting distorted. And
Yeah.
That was just a sight gag.
When that was one of my beefs with it is a lot of the lines worked, like most of the lines worked, but some of the slapstick gags, like particularly when Rocket set up all those like landmines in the forest, and it goes to that like far shot, and you just see the dudes like flying up and then down and then up and then down like over the trees. Like, it was so cartoony. Like that was my beef, is when they got cartoony.
Yeah.
So like in that warp scene where their heads are all wobbly, they went back to that shot like 4 times. It was funny once, and maybe go back to it for people who missed it the first time. But you don't need to have 3 minutes on scene of people's heads just deforming.
Right. The idea of that scene was that it took them forever. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I feel like they could have done that without being cartoony. But that the emotional core of Guardians 2, I think, is what's most important to me. Like, because it's really about biological dads versus adopted dads, right? And kind of that conflict and whether you owe one thing or another, and it just does it really well. So, so number 2, Get Out.
Yeah.
No, get the fuck out. No.
Awesome.
Get Out's a great movie. It was almost my number 1. I was kind of conflicted on my top 3, honestly, but Get Out is a very tense movie that just has a batshit insane kind of background to it that is terrifying and comical, and they do a really good job at kind of making fun of themselves as they go, but somehow still keeping up the tension on it. And it also has a somewhat classic horror soundtrack, so there's not... it's been a little while since I've seen it, but I don't remember there being just like a ton of jump scares in it, which I also appreciated.
I just watched it a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and yeah, there was not... I think maybe there was one.
Yeah, I feel like there was one towards the beginning, like with the deer or something like that, but I don't think there was much after that.
There was probably two then, because I think there was one with like a squirrel or something.
Oh, okay.
So they're subverting that idea a little bit.
So my number one movie is Blade Runner. I love Blade Runner.
Okay.
They did something that I consider pretty close to impossible, which is making a sequel to Blade Runner. Not only making a sequel to Blade Runner, but having Harrison Ford in it, and then getting Harrison Ford to actually fucking act. They did the soundtrack. I guess Vangelis is retired at this point, the guy who did the original soundtrack, and they got 3 composers to do the new one, and it goes between these, kind of the classic synthesizer pads of the original to like just the shrieking noise at times, and it has so many kind of stories in it, and it has so many things that it is kind of saying about technology and what makes a person and love and AI and how we treat lesser citizens and things like that, and what the actors do with material that granted we don't know what the director said to them or anything like that on set, but at some point, like, there is so much subtext conveyed with different moments in the acting and interaction that is just fucking fantastic and phenomenal. I think people who see this as a shallow movie are...
There are people who think Blade Runner is shallow?
The new one, yeah. They think it's just pretty visuals, and I don't think they are looking into the movie at all. I think they are falling asleep halfway or something, because the main character has a girlfriend that's a hologram through a chunk of the movie, and she's a product that you can buy, and it's kind of about her. It just does a really fucking awesome / creepy storyline with that is great. That it says some fucking crazy things and has some crazy moments later on. Harrison Ford, I was really kind of giving up on that guy being able to turn out a decent performance, and they have entire scenes where they will have the camera just entirely directly on his face with him kind of subtly reacting to certain situations, which I thought was fucking fantastic. I think the main character just has a awesome conflict in terms of, he is a oh my god, skin job. What are they called? Replicant. He is a replicant, and yet his job is to hunt replicants, so he is they don't really show the inner, like, turmoil that you would get in, like, a super overdramatic, cheesy movie, but he's got it to a degree, and they introduce a conflict in him, and they kind of... The movie has a habit of making you think you're predicting where it's going, and then it'll come back and say, no, that's not actually the case. There is one part about midway which it sounds like a few people guessed what that part was as it was happening. And to that extent, if you did that, then that would make some of the revelations later in the movie, I think, seem obvious. But I did not catch that at all. Anyway, so that is my list. Real quick, I want to do my favorite soundtrack of the year, which is Blade Runner. I already talked about it a bit.
Are you sure you don't want to hold a maybe spot for Jumanji? Because that'll be out next week. Well,
and I will mention, there were a few movies I didn't see I haven't seen Star Wars. I haven't seen Mother. I haven't seen The Disaster Artist, and I haven't seen Justice League. Disaster Artist.
Justice League would not be in that list.
Disaster Artist looks fun.
Like I
think I'm gonna go see that.
I'm thinking Disaster Artist might have knocked something out of on the bottom of the list. Mother, I suspect I may just uniquely like. I'm usually a fan of Aronofsky's work.
Because I had heard Mother was garbage, but
I've heard very conflicting reports of garbage, or very conflicting reports of what people thought about it.
Yeah.
The problem is it's a super art movie, so.
Yeah, that's the thing. If the reviews are either all terrible or all wonderful, then it's for a particular person, and you may love it, and if you love it, you will love it, and if you don't, then you'll hate it.
Well, and I
like
love
nobody thinks it's fine, right?
Like, give me Aronofsky when he's being maybe not Noah weird, like that's definitely his weakest entry, but like granted, it's not gonna. I gather Mother's not gonna be as cohesive as like Pi or something like that, but I'm a big fan of The Fountain and Pi and those works, which I don't think everyone's always talks about. The Wrestler and
Pi, like Pi, like the number.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I hated that.
You hated Pi?
I hated Pi. No, I haven't seen it in 15 years, but I remember hating it.
Ah, jeez. I don't like. Even for cheese value, seeing a fucking traditional, like, Jewish guy with the locks and the beard fucking slug a dude. Okay, anyway, that's a obviously stupid portion of it, but I love Pi. Maybe you gotta be in that. Well, no, you're a fucking math nerd, aren't you?
I mean,
we all know what Pi is.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't call myself a math nerd, no.
Oh, okay. I really liked Pi.
I'm a lot of nerds. A math one is not among them.
It has been a while since I've seen it. I'm sure it is juvenile.
Joey's the math nerd, and he's no longer with us.
Oh, he died?
No.
I feel like you would have brought that up before we went live, dude.
In some sense.
So, Randy, what are your favorite? Wait, no, I'm sorry.
Nope.
Jake, what are your favorite movies of the year?
All right,
one did come up, and if Jake doesn't mention it, I'm going to mention it. But take it away, Jake.
So here's what you're not going to hear on my list. This is a list of stuff I unfortunately watched.
This is Foties, not elf
I know
Foties.
it's Foties, but these are notable things that I would urge people to skip. Justice League, Dark Tower, Logan, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man Homecoming, Kingsman, Golden Circle. You can skip all of them.
You didn't like Homecoming?
Did you say Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see the case for Wonder Woman.
The action is great. She's an idiot. And
Homecoming was awesome.
Michael Keaton was awesome, but Spider-Man is also a bumbling idiot.
You said Spider-Man? I think I just zoned out through that whole list because I was just shocked at like one movie, and then you were like, all this other stuff that people like. I like Spider-Man. I think it's worth your time.
Spider-Man, okay, Peter Parker is supposed to be like a kid who doesn't know what he's doing and sucks socially, but like when he puts the suit on, all of a sudden, like that's his shit. That's where he belongs. And he just keeps fucking up the entire movie, whether he's got the suit or not. Like, yeah, you can skip all that shit.
Spider-Man is about Marvel writing a story about a likable hero that they're going to constantly take shits on. And I thought that movie did an admirable job of doing that.
He's the Butters of the MCU.
It's fine to be the Butters, but when you put the suit on, he's supposed to be a badass, and he just was not. Anyway, I wish I'd watched John Wick 2 or Jigsaw instead of those, but I didn't. Those will get pushed to next year. So, number 5, I think technically this was 2016 in Europe, but we didn't see it until, I want to say, April. The Girl with All the Gifts. It's on, I want to say, either Netflix or Amazon Prime. It is a zombie movie. Like, you knew one was going to be on here. Except it's kind of unique in that there's like this school where all these kids are basically zombified, but so long as they don't smell people, so long as like they don't smell sweat or something like that, they're just normal kids. So, the people running the school, quote unquote, it's actually, like a government facility or something.
Yeah.
The people running the school have, these chemicals they put on their clothes or their skin or whatever, and then they can just teach the kids to be people. And as you might expect, everything goes wrong. But it's just aside from kind of the ending, which is kind of weird just for the sake of being weird, but is also something that you never really see in a zombie movie, which is a happy ending, but not for who you think you want a happy ending for.
For the zombies? You don't have to confirm if you're worried about spoilers. But.
Yeah, I'm not. I can't think of a way to phrase it that will not spoil it, because it's kind of, it left me very unsatisfied, but like that was kind of the point. And the more I've had to think about it, the more in hindsight I liked that movie. I have Get Out at number 4. I think it's a really good half of a movie. The first half, excuse me, and I say this as a white dude, so it's kind of tough for me to talk about any of this stuff, but I feel like Jordan Peele did a great job of, it certainly made me feel what I expect would be what it's like to be a black person surrounded by white people.
Well, that's what art can do, right?
Well, and I don't know, because that's not, again, I'm not black. But
if art can't do it, then there's no reason to have art. I'm just going to put that out there.
Okay, all right. I think it did it well. It did it, cleverly. When it became a horror movie, I think it sort of lost a lot of steam. But in a sense, it became a horror movie because, like, I guess kind of the message is, like, don't trust Whitey. Like, even if you think he's cool, he ain't cool. There's a lot of messages in there. And I think some of them kind of conflict, but then maybe they don't, and I'm still sorting it all out 2 weeks later. But
I don't know how I managed not to see this.
It's worth picking up. I mean, it's not something you probably need to buy, but go to a Redbox and pick it up.
I think it's on Hulu right now.
It might be on Hulu, but anywhere.
Definitely check it out. I'm a big fan of Jordan Peele. I think I'm the only person on earth who saw Keanu.
I keep meaning to watch it. Right? Granted, this is not a comedy. It has funny moments in it, but I highly recommend. Well, okay, obviously.
Yeah, it's good. It kind of loses something when it becomes a horror movie.
Yeah.
But even then, it needs to be there.
Cool.
And the ending, like the last, 45 seconds or whatever, is pretty awesome. So then, excuse me, I've said it on past weeks. I'm still fighting this cough away. So sorry, guys. There's going to be coughing. Number 3 is 1922. Did either of you guys watch this? It's on Netflix.
Nope.
Nope.
Never heard of it.
It is, from what I understand, it's a Stephen King novel of some type, novella maybe. It's about this farmer in what will come as no surprise in 1922. They're out in what becomes the Dust Bowl. I don't know if it was already the Dust Bowl at that point.
Dust Bowl
is like
30s.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe it becomes that later, but it's a period piece, and it's got Tom Jane and the lady who was in Deadwood, who had the laudanum problem, the rich lady who was married to the guy with the gold mine, and then he died. And then she was also the senator from California in House of Cards, who was sleeping with Remy for a while. You guys know who I'm talking about?
I never saw Deadwood. I think I remember the chick that was sleeping with Remy.
You'd know her if you saw her. So she's in it. That's kind of. Oh, it's got the blonde guy with the almost too weird blue eyes from Band of Brothers, who's been in a bunch of stuff, and I forget his name.
The guy with the white hair.
Yeah, where it's supposed to be blonde, but it kind of is. He's just weird looking, but he's a good actor.
You really got a boner for Thomas Jane, don't you?
I kind of do. I didn't think I did, but I really do. He's got a cool 1920s accent in this. You might have to turn the subtitles on.
What's a 20s accent?
It's just an old back in the 20s they used to talk like this on the radio. That's like your radio guy from the 20s, but then you also have your rural guy from the 20s, and I can't even do the accent, but it's
almost unintelligible.
Kind of like it's not the same thing.
Just lay into it, Jake. Just do it.
Oh no, I couldn't even stab at it. But it's like
right.
God, what was it? Was it Switchblade? No.
Sling
Movie
Blade.
with, Sling Blade. Kind of like that almost. Except, yeah, even with the like Tom Jane kind of does that sort of low, mumbly, gruffly thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's the wife is super rich. She's kind of typecast that way, huh? And either wants to buy some land or wants to sell land and move back to the city or something. Tom Jane's not interested in doing this. He has some other plans with this money. He doesn't want her to divorce him because then that money goes bye-bye. He and the son end up killing Mom. And she comes back. And it's kind of like, to me it's like, what would have maybe happened in The Shining if Jack Nicholson didn't go crazy and was successful? Because like this guy effectively gets away with it, but then his life still unravels anyway. And it's just, the acting's all good. The story is pretty cool. The set pieces and the accents and stuff are all great. It ends horribly for everyone. I loved it. At number 2, I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I feel like Baby Groot was not brought up nearly enough for this. He was awesome. I think they modeled all his mocap on my cousin's daughter.
He really pushed the right button for you.
He did. I didn't tape up. I didn't have a chance to tape it up, but he got the right one. I've said my beef, so that I think when it tries to get too slapsticky and too like cartoony, it sort of loses its focus. I think Rocket's the animation for Rocket is like, I've seen Geico commercials that looked more right, but overall everyone jizzed all over the first one. They had to replace so many theater seats because they had holes in the back of them, and I didn't get it. I would have thought it was good, but it was like a B+, A-. I think this one's an A. I really liked this one a lot. I liked all the Kurt Russell stuff. I literally cried like a little girl for 5 minutes at the end of it when they're doing all the like, these are all the relationships that changed over the course of the movie, and this is what's happening. And man, I cried. I think, they are guardians of the fucking literal galaxy. I think it kind of sucks that they even went back to Earth at all to show you what was happening there, but I can forgive that. It was great. Number 1, I think this is the one you're probably looking for, Randy. It is It.
It actually wasn't it.
It wasn't it? Okay.
No, but that is a great film.
We kind of went to town on it when it came out. Like 4 or 5 shows ago. So I'm not going to. Yeah, I'm not going to go into great lengths on it. The kid actors were all great.
Yeah.
Some of the CG was a little weird. Like when they were in the house and he kind of turned into quasi-werewolf sort of thing.
That's that's canonical. That was kind of almost an Easter egg for people that had read it.
I know, but it just didn't. That scene sort of like, he just scratches one of them when he totally could have killed like 4 of these kids like 3 times over.
Yeah, well, it's about
but
instilling the fear first. You don't just kill him; you got to scare him first.
Okay, yeah, good call. I really liked what they did with the deadlights, and then we all float down here. They finally made that make sense. Was it not Mads Mikkelsen? One of them Skarsgård dudes.
Is it? Yeah, one of the kids.
No, I'm thinking
Stellan's
the guy
like
who
the
played
patriarch, and then
Pennywise.
yeah. I know.
One of the Skarsgård kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was great. All the child actors were awesome.
They were.
I think they made Stephen King's writing for children, like when he writes characters that are children, it usually sucks because he just puts all this knowledge in their heads that, like, these are the smartest, most culturally knowledgeable kids you'll ever meet, and they know all these references because they grew up in the 60s, so they know every single song that came out in the 60s. And that's all fucking irritating. But the actors somehow managed to make those work. It was great. I cannot wait to see with the next one how they do it. I've started listening to the audiobook. And I'm just about to where the adults are all meat and dairy, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm wondering how they're gonna do all this adult stuff because it seems pretty cool. So.
Yeah, I
don't
really
think
liked.
I don't think you could heap enough praise on the child actors.
I thought
Oh,
it
yeah.
was pretty good too.
Yeah, I was surprised it wasn't on your list, John.
But
that's-
is number 11 or 12, I'm sure.
That's everything
It's
I
an
got.
exclusive list. I'm going to throw one
yeah,
out here. I'm just going to go with one because you mentioned all the others that I would have put on there. But one you guys didn't mention that I really liked was Dunkirk.
Oh, that's because we didn't see it.
Well, that's that was the Nolan entry this year. It's a non-linear World War II film. It's constructed really cool. We talked about it, I think, earlier in the summer, I think, when it came out. But I'm just a fan of everything Nolan does. I'm a fan of World War II dramas, so there you go. It's nice to see one from the British side. People complain that it's all rah-rah USA, and it's like, well, we're making them, so yeah, rah-rah USA. But
Fuck you, it's our money.
well, yeah, exactly. Make your own films, England. So Nolan said, okay, I'm British. I'm going to make a British one, and he did, and it was awesome. So kudos. I'm just going to bring that one up. We don't need to dive into it because we've done it before. Good acting. I like nonlinear storytelling. You can feel the danger. I think the biggest enemy in Dunkirk, the thing they're fighting the most, is the water. So I don't know. It's just really good.
Okay, cool. So I'm starting off TV. So sorry, guys, you're gonna have a big block of my dumb voice again.
This is his top 25 TV shows of 2016.
It's actually 8,
8. Okay.
technically 7. But before I get into TV, I have to give out an award. It is the Hindsight Award for the worst titled special of the year, and that the winner is Louis C.K. with 2017. Because that's going to be the last thing on his IMDb page.
Because he's never going to work again.
Because his career ended in 2017. So, whoops. Anyway,
He may still get to produce, maybe, but he won't be starring in anything.
yeah, they should totally have him be the money guy who gets to make all the decisions, and
Who's going to say no? He's the money guy.
He's going to be back at some point doing stand-up.
I think so. He's going to serve his
I don't know,
time.
man. I don't know.
In terms that can offend and be forgiven, I think he's on the right track.
Okay. Anyway, actual list.
That's outside the scope of this cast, but
Yeah. Actual list. Number 7, Netflix's Castlevania. We really only kind of got a taste of what they're going to be doing. It was what, like 4 episodes, John? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they were like maybe 15 or 18 minutes. I mean, it kind of works out to like a short Castlevania anime movie. But it's a real good start. I really like the animation. It's a very high bar for me to get over. I mean, Christ, I stopped watching Voltron because I couldn't take the anime shit. And that show is objectively amazing. So there's a real high bar for me to watch this stuff. And it was not a slog for me. I think I watched it on one sitting. I'm looking forward to see what they actually do now that they've completed the setup. And they actually, when they start a real story, I can't wait for it. Number 6 is Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt Season 3 was out this year. It's sort of starting to go a little bit to where, like, maybe we don't need a Season 5. Like, maybe we'll do Season 4 to wrap stuff up and call it a series. But there was some really fun stuff in this one. In particular, Jacqueline, who was Kimmy Schmidt's boss for a while, Jacqueline Voorhees, played by, oh my God, I forget her name all the time. Blonde lady from 30 Rock. Help me out here, John. Jane Krakowski. So she ends up dating one of the Snyders, which are the people who own the Washington football team. And Jane's character is half Native American in the show. Or no, she's totally Native American in the show. And she's dating a guy whose family owns a team called the Washington Redskins. And they do a lot of really funny stuff with that. Right down to like the owners' meeting where they have that jackass with the awful haircut who owns the Raiders. I think they have like, a 150-year-old woman. No, Snyder's on the Washington. It's a Davis. Al
Is that
Davis
what we're
used to
talking about?
own the Raiders. Maybe it was right, but they're in the owners' meeting, and
Oh.
it's got the owners from the other teams
Got
that
it.
are
Yeah,
all
okay.
talking.
Yep, I'm with you.
So it's got Mrs. McCaskey who owns the Bears, and she's like 1,000,000,000 years old, and so she's sitting there like, I don't know, in like a mummy sarcophagus or something like that. It's all ridiculous and it's all funny. There's some good Titus stuff, so that's worth watching. I feel like it's probably sort of crested and kind of on its way out, but this was still a good season. Number 5, you have Amazon's sort of short run of The Tick. I didn't think I was going to like this one.
How many eps was it?
6?
Yeah, it's 6. I finished
Are
it
they like
last
an hour?
night. Yeah, roughly.
Okay.
I'm pretty
All
sure.
the actors are real good in this. I was worried about, was it Peter Capaldi? Is that how you say his name?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Sure.
I was worried that he didn't look right in the suit. I wanted, man, I am awful with names for TV.
The guy that
Live action
played
guy.
Kronk in from Seinfeld. Elaine's boyfriend from Seinfeld. He would have been perfect.
The Devils fan?
Maybe he's too old.
Are you referring to the guy who voices Joe on Family Guy?
Yeah.
You think he'd be a real good Tick?
He visually at least.
Yeah, I bet he'd be real good, which is probably why they casted him in 2001 to be the Tick.
Yeah, but he's not in this new Amazon one.
Yeah, he did did you see the other live action Tick where he starred?
Apparently not.
Patrick Warburton was
That's
the
it,
Tick
Patrick Warburton.
for like 9 episodes. It didn't last real long, but yeah, there was a Tick live action show on Fox that
Well, they should have just brought him back.
was in
then.
the suit.
You should go check out that show. I think it's on. I don't know what it's on. I'm sure it's on something that you have.
It is absolutely on something because I almost watched it the other day. Except I had all this other shit
Well,
to
now
get
I have to watch it because that would have been great, and I had the idea independent of anybody else, so I'm a genius. And
You really do. And it's got the guy who plays Batman well is Professor Eyeliner from Lost. I forget what else he was in, but he's the guy who always looks like he's wearing eyeliner. He's Batman well. He's real good. Anyway, Amazon's version is the effects are a little lower budget than I would expect, but they're good. Stuff they're doing with this, giant naked man who just keeps getting bigger and bigger. That is like nobody ever addresses. It's just like something that's on the TVs that they never really went into. Peter Capaldi's great. I was worried that he wouldn't, that he wasn't big enough to fill out the suit. I didn't know that he'd get the sensibility that the Tick has. His just enthusiasm, and he really does. He really does. I was worried that Arthur was going to be out of the suit so much, but like all his stuff with the family and it's all really good. And then Tick showing up to like the birthday party, and it was all great stuff. I want to see what happens once they've now got their feet under them and do another season.
Cool.
Speaking of Patrick Warburton, number 4 is from like January. It is Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. What was that?
That was
on
good?
Netflix? You weren't a fan, John?
No, I just forgot about it. That probably should have made my list too. That was a real
I
good
never
show.
would have thought that would be anything worth watching, but you're saying it was.
It's
It has Patrick Warburton in it.
It's got
Well, there
Patrick
you-
Warburton. He is Lemony Snicket.
Expressed my affection for Patrick Warburton. So.
It has Neil Patrick Harris.
Neil Patrick Harris is Count Olaf, who is the bad guy who keeps trying to
that's who-
to get custodianship of these 3 children.
And
whose
in the
parents
movie,
are
that was played by
missing.
Jim Carrey, right?
Right. And Neil Patrick Harris, like, it kind of sucks because I love Neil Patrick Harris so much, and this character is so just detestable that, like, he's so good at playing that character that, like, I'm starting in the back of my mind to almost associate them too closely, and, like, that's going to make me hate NPH a little. I'm like, no.
Well,
I don't want
NPH is an excellent actor.
He's great. The kids are good. It is a family show, but it's got that Victorian. It's probably the same as the movie, which I haven't seen. But it's got that kind of Victorian. Everything is dark and dingy and like depressing.
Yeah, there's
And
just a
hasn't been
layer of
touched.
coal dust on everything.
Well,
Yeah.
and like the visual style of props and costumes, I think, are on a near Terry Gilliam level. like in
They're
that show. Like there's just a lot of style and physicality to them that I don't think. I don't know who Terry Gilliam's costume designer was, but it feels Gilliam-esque. I won't go as far as to say that it's as good as him, but
Gilliamian.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just right down to like that. It's got a bunch of great cameos. Of course, I'm not going to be able to name anybody who was in it, but every episode there's somebody go, oh, I know them. But down to the style, there's that house that's built on like the cliff, that like rocky outcropping that goes like way out over the water, and it's just like almost goes down to a sliver, and they're like, yeah, let's build a big house on that. It looks almost Seussian, like
sort of like Seuss meets Burton.
Yeah. It's very good. It's got an awesome theme song too. Don't skip that theme song. So anyway, put that in your list and watch it. We should probably have a new season coming out pretty soon, I would think.
Yeah, I hope so. The theme song.
It's been almost a year.
While you're mentioning that, Jake, it changes almost every episode.
It does, depending on what happens in the plot. They will update the lyrics to the theme song.
That's cool.
To keep you abreast of the situation. Yes. So number 3, I don't think it was one of these things I kept meaning to bring up after I watched it, and then it just kept getting kicked off the schedule because of, I don't know, game releases or something like that, which is why we put those last now. It's Ozark. Did either of you guys watch Ozark on Netflix?
No, but I had heard that it grips you, but it kind of fades off towards the end. Like maybe 5 or 6 episodes in, it kind of.
I don't know that it's that much longer than that. It's so the easy shorthand is to call it Breaking Bad with Patrick Bateman.
Breaking Bad in Arkansas, yeah.
Well, the Ozarks are in Missouri, I believe, but yeah.
Dude,
aren't they?
I'm not going to get into a geography debate with you. It could take place in Missouri, but the Ozarks are also in Arkansas.
I think they said a whole bunch of stuff about.
That's like saying the Rockies are only in Colorado. The Ozarks are a big. But the show might take place in Missouri. It doesn't matter.
It's beautiful. The scenery is just beautiful in it. So it's about this. It is Patrick Bateman, right? Am I getting his first name right?
Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman. Oh my! I knew that sounded wrong. Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
I told you guys I'm terrible with names.
I am.
So he is. He actually lives with his family in Naperville, which is about 10 minutes from where I live right now. And he's an investor in Chicago, like a investment manager in Chicago, with his best friend. They're both partners, and they run this firm.
Yeah, just like middle class yuppie type guy.
Eventually will not be middle class, but upper middle class for the moment. Yeah. Because they started their own business and they built this thing from the ground up, and they're just kind of starting to come into their own and be successful. Great. Well, you find out in the pilot, about probably 10 minutes in, that they are money laundering for a Mexican drug cartel. And the jig is up because it turns out one of these people that was involved has been stealing from them. And we're talking like $10 million are just gone. And the cartel ain't having none of that shit. So basically, the sort of setup is that Jason Bateman has to grab his family and leave Chicago immediately. In order
from the cartel.
Kind of. I don't want to get too much into that, but basically, in order to stop the cartel from straight up murdering him, his wife, his children, everyone, he goes, he's on his knees crying, begging for his life, and goddamn, he's a good actor. He says, look. I just found out about this place in the Ozarks. It's this vacation town. In the summer, it's all cash businesses. People come down. I can make you your $10 million back in 3 years. Just give me something to start with. I will launder all your money for, I don't know, it was 10% instead of 30 or whatever. He says, just spare me my life. And so he grabs his family and moves them down to the Ozarks. And it's really good, down to the writing is good. All the characters that they run into are good. There's kind of some hillbilly stuff that doesn't quite work. Mm-hmm. They do kind of do the stereotypical
the stereotype of the area.
Trailer park family. Yeah. There's a dude who runs a strip club, but he only gets overweight women. So I was trying to get my mom into this show because I really loved it, kind of start to finish. From what you've heard, Randy, that it kind of dips at points. That's probably true, but it's definitely worth watching the whole thing. But I tried to get my mom into this, and I had forgotten how much sex and violence there is in the first 20 minutes of that show. Like, I'm sitting there with my mom on like a Tuesday night because I got locked out of my apartment. That's another story. So I'm sitting there on Tuesday night with my mom watching Jason Bateman get a blowjob, and I'm like, well, I wish I would have remembered this, but it's real good. It's good. Put it in your list. Number 2 is Game of Thrones. It's not necessarily the most recent season of Game of Thrones. It's sort of all of Game of Thrones, because I think when we started doing the cast, it might have come up, and to me it was just like it was a white guy of the week show because I didn't recognize any of these dudes. It was a white guy with a brown beard, and they were dead before I knew what they were there for, what their motive was. They were just dead. And now that I had my HBO Go for a month and went back and watched them again, I kind of was able to remember dudes better, and man, that show got fucking good after I quit watching it. Like all this stuff in season 4 where the religious folks take over King's Landing and all that stuff. And are you guys caught up on that?
No, I stopped watching after season 4, and I just haven't caught up.
I'm caught up on the spoilers. I haven't actually seen the last 3 or 4 seasons.
Okay, the last episode I watched was Arya Stark getting on the boat and floating off, and that was the finale of season 4.
I think I saw
there's
season
some cool
4.
shit after that, man.
I know, I've got HBO now. I just need to watch it.
Well, you should go watch it like as soon as we get off the call.
I got shit to do.
So I still haven't seen the last, I want to say 2 episodes because my month trial expired like 2 months before or 2 weeks before the season finale. I do know about the big scary Arthas shit. Like again, I was getting pissed, like momentarily pissed at the show, like several times throughout like seasons. What are we on 7? So several times throughout like 6 and 7. I'm going, man, they ripped this shit straight off of Warcraft 3. And it's like, I had to keep reminding myself that shit came like 13 years later. Maybe not that long, but sufficiently later that Warcraft probably inspired by this. But it's great. And then
fantasy all rips off each other.
Yeah. The top of my list, because it's kept me sane this year, is Last Week Tonight with John Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
It's the single best show on TV. I think they do a really good job of not just addressing, here's what our fuck-up president did today. It's because that's that all falls away when the next fire erupts.
Well,
they
I'm honest,
good job.
I'm not a fan of the guy, but it can get tiring to watch that all the time.
I mean, and it's not. We
Maybe
don't need another
banking
show
on.
to do that, And
yeah,
and they don't do
enough.
God, there's pieces of it, but they'll get into a lot of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily have thought about if it didn't happen to you.
Like dialysis.
Kidney dialysis, predatory auto loans. Cars being sold 7 and 8 times by the same dealer because they're putting people into loans that they can't afford.
Well, and then they're building these derivatives. They're making the what do they call them? The same thing they did with the mortgages. I can't remember what they actually called it, but they're bundling those and selling them in tranched, securities and things like that. Mm-hmm. They're doing the same thing they did with mortgages now on used cars. And I had no idea. Thank you, Last Week Tonight.
Yeah, I mean they're, and it's so well written. Like I totally get it if people, don't share an opinion with John Oliver on something, but you cannot argue that the writing on that show is the best writing in television.
Yeah, and that that happens sometimes. I don't always agree with him, but his show is always entertaining and funny.
Yeah, and they have lots of awesome guest stars.
Yep.
They might even
Cowboy.
Is Cather Cowboy an actual, was he in other stuff?
I don't know that he's
just
like a
from
famous
that commercial
guy. I'm sure he's just kind of a journeyman actor that they picked up for SAG minimum, but
he is in those real commercials though, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that how that started?
They aired them on in DC, yeah.
But even before, so Cather Cowboy is this. So originally, this actor was on, they would play. He was in commercials that would play during Fox and Friends and stuff. That for catheters, Like he was, the representative. Like when I cath, I want to make sure that
Yeah, I don't like pain when I cath.
Yeah. So last week tonight hired this dude to do commercials about stuff like, point to where North Korea is on a map or something like that.
The nuclear triad.
The nuclear triad. And then they actually, they'll show them during the show, these commercials, but then they'll actually air them in the D.C. area during Fox and Friends.
Because they know that Trump watches TV all day.
Right. So it's a lot of, and again, I'm not going down that whole thing. I don't want to beat on that.
This was the same show that set up a church so that they could take donations to point out how the televangelists are screwing people. And they donated all their money, but they set it up as a tax-free church because they all meet in the same place for certain. They met all of the criteria to be a church, and then he was the head of it, and so people just sent in donations as a joke, and he donated them. But the whole thing was to highlight how these people exploit the loopholes of the tax code to be a church, and it's basically a huge, I don't want to say a pyramid scheme, but they're fraudsters.
Hucksters is probably, yeah, that's
hucksters,
fair. But yeah, they're really clever, and they have good skits and great writing, and John Oliver I think is very funny. So that was top of my list. What do you got for TV this year, Randy?
Well, first, I'm going to go out there and say that John Oliver should have taken over The Daily Show, and I think he might have had he not got Last Week Tonight before Jon Stewart retired. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put out Season 3 of Better Call Saul. All 3 seasons have been solid A+ stuff. I don't know if either of you two have checked it out.
I've seen 1 and 2. Because I'm a year behind because of Netflix.
Yeah, you're in for a treat. It's really good. It doesn't miss a beat. It ratchets up the tension. It's not a spoiler to say we are introduced to Gus of Breaking Bad fame. For those of you out there,
is Michael McKean still very prevalent in season 3?
Very prevalent. He has, let's just say, he has some extreme character development that takes place.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say he's even more prevalent than he has been. There's a lot of character development. Kim Wexler gets character development.
I like her, and I like that
I know,
actress.
I love that the actress is great, and the character is great. I don't know. I can't think of anything bad about that show. Jonathan Banks is awesome as always.
Remind me who that is.
He's Mike.
Oh, right, duh.
Yeah, Mike is the stereotypical. I don't want to say stereotypical, but he's like the archetypical hero, criminal with a heart of gold, right? Like he's got a code that he won't violate, but he is a criminal.
He's fucking awesome, and
I know.
I can
Everyone
watch
loves
that
Mike.
actor read the dictionary.
There are, I didn't even realize it. Here's the thing: there's one episode where the whole first, I don't want to say half, but definitely all of Mike's parts are just him figuring something out, doing detective work, right? A tracker has been placed on his car, and he's trying to figure out who did it, crack it, that sort of thing. And all of his scenes,
so good at just facially, you can tell exactly what he's thinking.
It's interspersed obviously with his storyline and then the Jimmy McGill storyline. And every time it goes back to Mike, I didn't even realize it until it was pointed out to me in a review that I read. There's no dialogue. It's just Mike doing detective work.
There you go.
And he doesn't say a word. And I didn't even realize it. That's how compelling and how good he is, and how well directed it was, and how well shot it was. It's amazing.
They don't fuck around, man.
No, it's really, really good. So if you haven't seen it, find a way. I'm sure it'll be available on Netflix soon, although maybe not because Netflix is losing. They're losing stuff.
Yeah, well, they're
a bucket full of holes, man.
I mean, AMC isn't owned by Fox, but FX is, so FXX is. Those are going to be owned by Disney. Netflix is, yeah. I think I was saying on Discord last night that Netflix will eventually be 98% original content because no one else is going to be able to or want to work with them.
Well, it's not that they don't want to; it's that everybody wants to put their shit on their own streaming network and secure the revenue that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. They want to control the rights. They don't want to sell it off to Netflix. They want to maintain control of the rights and set up the revenue stream for themselves. That's what they want to do. So you're going to have to subscribe. You're going to have to pay $5 a month or whatever it is to 10 to 12 different streaming services if you want to watch all the content instead of just one to Netflix.
Well, I feel like that's not as much the case as it was before this Disney thing happened. Because you were going to have Disney, Hulu, Netflix, DC. What's the
FX
anime
has
one?
its own streaming. NBC has
Crunchyroll.
it.
But, like, I think you're going to start to see, because Amazon bought Hulu, now that's a huge, gorilla in the room. I think they're going to have a lot more success throwing their weight around once all these individual streaming services sort of fall off.
So, anyway, Better Call Saul Season 3, that is my submission.
Okay, I'm sorry, John. I have to interrupt 1 second. I have one that will probably be top 3 on my list, but it isn't out yet, and that is Black Mirror Season 4.
Oh, yeah, that's not out yet. I mean,
It's not out yet, but it will be there. So anyway, take it away, sir.
Okay, so there was a metric ton of good TV this year. Like, I didn't realize it until, 1, I made my list, and 2, listening to you guys talk, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to catch up on that show, and, like, Castlevania and Lemony Snicket, I completely forgot about, and they aren't on my list, and they would bump at least one item off my list. But I'm just going to talk about my top 9 as is, and go from there. So, number 9, Voltron Seasons 3 and 4. It's bullshit that it's called Season 3 and 4, but this show's it stayed pretty top-notch and has done a good job at introducing character arcs and having interesting characters and an interesting world, and the victory in Voltron is not just toppling over the king of the bad guy. They have this entire empire to deal with, so but anyway, number 8, My Hero Academia Season 2. What
is that?
This is an anime. I kind of watched season 1 and 2 over the past month or so. It's available on Hulu. It is kind of a Naruto Bleach-esque story arc. I guess more Naruto than Bleach. But it's basically Naruto with superheroes. Like, you have your kid, like everyone is born with powers now, and the people with the best powers get to go to a school for superheroes to train to be superheroes. And the main character starts out as a kid without any powers, and he eventually gets powers, and they do some cool stuff with that. And I like the character work, and it's equal parts dramatic, obscene, and insane anime. Like, on the one hand, the kid initially, when he gets his powers, anytime he uses them, he breaks whatever limb he uses them with.
That's pretty anime.
On the other hand, like, one of the other characters, like, the other characters in class have fucking ridiculous powers. This one girl's power is headphones, and she literally has, like, a headphone jack
Power is headphones?
that she can plug into things and do stuff with. Like, another guy's thing is tape. He shoots tape out of his elbows that he swings around with. But then you get people with real powers, too, who can create explosions or fire or ice or whatnot. But it's a fun, ridiculous show. And whereas I think Naruto spends a lot of time doing nothing, I think only the first few episodes of My Hero Academia spend time doing nothing. And I think the rest of the series is pretty good about moving things forward. Number 7 is American Gods. It's kind of the...
That's FX? Or Spike? No, not Spike.
Showtime, I think.
Showtime, okay.
It's either Showtime or AMC. I don't remember. Whichever one doesn't have Twin Peaks is the one that one got.
Okay.
So, I really like American Gods. Granted, it's kind of the best parts of the book mixed with a porno. So I mean, there's a lot of nudity in this thing. A lot of.
Okay, I'm gonna guess not AMC then.
But it's a really good show. I don't know if there's a lot to say about it. I think the guy, I forgot his name. He was in John Wick as the hotel owner. But that guy plays Wednesday in it, and does a fucking phenomenal job as Wednesday. Like, when I heard he got the role, I'm like, I can't really see it. But then seeing him portray it, like, he somehow whereas before he did not look like I pictured Wednesday in my head, through his sheer acting ability, he somehow looks like Wednesday does in my head, which makes no sense to me. But, anyway, I think everyone does a great job on that show. It does have a sentient zombie, well, I don't know if it's actually a zombie, but she's zombie-like enough, so that should capture your interest enough, Jake.
Yeah, that's just if they hint at it. You know?
Like the showrunner for this is the guy who did Pushing Daisies and Dead Like Me. So, anyway,
that's right. You were saying that in the Discord.
Yeah, number 6, Stranger Things season 2. I realize this was not as popular a season with you guys or a lot of people, but for me it was more of what I wanted. I loved that it shifted the focus from Michael and Eleven to kind of Dustin and Steve and Lucas. I love that it has that many great fleshed out characters that it can do that, and I'm sure next season will, go back to either focusing on Michael and Eleven or a different pairing of them as the front runners. But I love the bits with Dustin trying to take care of the monster as a pet. I love the I guess Dustin really is kind of the star of the show to me for this season. Like, his parts are the parts I like best.
They're deliberately writing him up that way. Like, they're writing it so he can ham it up, but like, kid's good at hamming it up, so let's let him do it.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever get a chance to play the phone game that came out for that?
I did not.
I just downloaded it like yesterday because I got this new device that I kind of hate. But anyway, this was one of the things that they recommended. I went, oh yeah, I always meant to play that. So I've played about 10 or 15 minutes of it, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's sort of like Zelda puzzle solving kind of stuff with great like 8/16-bit-ish graphics. It's real cool. Check that out. It's free.
So, number 5. Rick and Morty Season 3.
Oh, yeah.
This may be the best season of Rick and Morty. Because this, it's not the funniest season. But
it certainly has the most character work.
Yeah. And I love some of that character beats. The Rick Lantis mix-up may be one of my favorite episodes of TV of all time. And I can't wait to own a copy. So
Remind me which one that was.
That is the one where they say they're going to Atlantis, and then it does a...
Is that the one where it's all at the Citadel?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, and I can't wait to just watch that episode over and over to just figure
out
what the hell they're doing with that.
I haven't seen it, but was the whole storyline with Cop Morty, was that a play on Training Day?
I don't know. I haven't seen Training Day.
Okay.
This is the exact conversation you guys had last time we brought it up.
Yeah. Well, it bears repeating because it's an awesome show.
It's a really good you don't expect it. Like, we kind of spoiled what it was, but what they do at the beginning of the episode, and I'm not going to spoil the whole episode, Jake. I just am going to spoil the initial thing. The episode starts with Rick and Morty saying, let's go to Atlantis, and then one of them makes an offhand comment about the Citadel, and then it goes to a Rick and Morty on the Citadel that aren't them, and kind of the episode spins out of control from there. And
there's 2 or 3, I think 3 storylines, right? And they're not even interwoven. They just kind of
don't spoil the whole thing, but it's not
a spoiler to say
that's kind of how
multiple storylines.
I feel
that's
like
how all their episodes are.
I feel like it's a spoiler because you always expect the episode to go back to the real Rick and Morty, and it keeps not doing that.
It's already been established, and it's already up in the air as to whether or not it's up in the air as to whether or not every episode even focuses on this Rick and Morty that we know.
That's true.
That's questionable. There could be some episodes, specifically the one with Mr. Poopy Butthole, that might not even be the Rick C-137 that we're used to seeing.
Good point. Then Pickle Rick, I think, was the other standout episode from this season. I mean, a lot of them are good, but Pickle Rick... and the Rick Landis mix-up was great. Pickle Rick had some fucking real shit to say.
Oh yeah,
that movie, that
the woman voicing the therapist was none other than Susan Sarandon.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She's got a lot better sense of humor than I ever would have expected.
She doesn't tell jokes in this episode, I don't think. But they end on a really fucking heavy note. So I really like this season. Like it's insane to me that the show can do this and do it well and get away with it, you know. But
it was amazing. Hopefully it's not almost 2 years before season 4 like it was.
Yeah.
I'm just pissed because, like, if I had watched that whole season, I'm almost sure it would have been on my list. But it just pisses me off that, like, I got into Rick and Morty like a week and a half before the internet just fucked it right through the ground, and I was like, nah. Yeah. I couldn't at least had like a year where I could like this stuff, like, because you said Pickle Rick, and the hairs on the back of my neck immediately stood up. So, like, when I watch this stuff, that's going to be in the back of my mind. It would be like if someone was really getting into the comic that one guy drew that had Pepe in it. Like, if you haven't experienced this thing yet, and it's already been ruined by the internet.
I guess I didn't have the internet ruin any of that stuff to me. Like, most of my internet experience with Rick and Morty have been people saying they either don't like Rick and Morty or they don't like Rick and Morty fans. Like, I have not experienced the negative fandom that's out there. I just kind of take everyone's word for it that it's there and don't seek it out. So
it's probably good policy.
I can definitely see how, and I think we've talked about this before too, but John, we all know, I don't know if you go to game shops or anything like that, Jake, but there's definitely a class of nerd that just thinks they're the smartest fucking person on the planet. And they're always correcting you, you know what I mean? And they know the minutiae of every rule and this and that, and they're the most annoying turd in the entire place. And I have a feeling that those types of people are fans of Rick and Morty I'm just going to go out there and say it, they don't get it.
Yeah.
And they are fans of it for the wrong reasons, and they're the ones that are ruining it. And they're not even ruining it, but they're definitely creating negative buzz around it when it shouldn't be there, because it's just a fantastic show.
I mean, the point of Rick's character is that he's a terrible person, and he's entertaining.
You're not supposed to like Rick.
Because he's a terrible person.
If you watch Rick and Morty and come away admiring Rick, you don't get it.
Yeah.
You just don't get it.
So, number 4, The Punisher. I loved that this show just like fucking dove into fucking veteran. You know, I have not had any lunches with any of my veteran friends because I rarely get to see most of them, but or my veteran friends that would have seen this in particular. But I loved that it just fucking dove into it, and that it presented like these multiple different perspectives of different how different people were adjusting after getting back from war, and I granted that I liked. Well, there we go. We got one veteran in chat, Bachmana, saying he appreciated it. I liked the last few episodes of Punisher, but to a degree, the season did feel like it ended around episode 10. But
forgive my ignorance, but is Frank Castle traditionally a vet?
He was in the Tom Jane movie.
I think he's usually
that's the one that matters.
Cop, is it? No, he is usually a vet. Because he was always in, like in the 80s, it was always he was in Vietnam, I think.
He was a non-vet.
And then sometimes he's a cop, and sometimes he's something else. Like on this one, he's just primarily a vet.
Bakke says he was a Marine.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they were superfying like all over the place.
So in this iteration, he's an ex-Marine.
How does this fit in with Castle with Nathan Fillion? How does that all tie in?
But anyway, I thought the acting was fucking fantastic in Punisher. I thought the police captain chick, like, it's amazing to me that they added another main character, essentially, in this show, and she was good. Like, she was a good character. Like, she had a good character arc. She may have not gotten a great finale in the last episode or two, but anyway, I think it was fucking phenomenal. I look forward to the second season. Unfortunately, I don't think the skull ever looked quite right in live action or in the context of this show, but I think this show's great, and I think the only reminders that it is in the Marvel Universe are the occasional cameo from something. So, Bachmano in chat says, one background says he changed his name to Castle from...
Castiglione.
Yeah, to re-up because they wouldn't let him go back. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah, but hey, I really liked the show
Castle
a
in
lot.
Italian.
I also liked how the show's commentary on violence wasn't to tell you that violence was wrong. It was to show you really fucking extreme violence in moments that made you question supporting this character or question this being the deserved end, no matter how bad
he's
this
always
person
been
did something. So
I mean, the Punisher might be the definition of an anti-hero.
yeah. So number 3, 13 Reasons Why.
Yeah.
So I've kind of done some reflection since the show initially came out.
So
and
have I.
read some
What did you think?
articles. I think the show is fucking fantastic, but teenagers are fucking insane, and really this show, I think, is... I don't think the show is suicide porn, but I also think you have to experience the degree of life that I think usually comes with adulthood.
That most teenagers have not.
Yeah, so to a teenager, I could see it being suicide revenge porn.
There is... That's sort of the thing I kind of... My initial... what's the word? My initial take was that the whole releasing tapes, it's kind of romanticized. It's almost a revenge fantasy on her part, and I didn't like that. And then I got so caught up in the story and the mystery element of it that I kept watching. But again, upon reflecting on it, I don't know that anyone is going to go out there and kill themselves because they watched 13 Reasons Why. But I definitely it's not. I don't know that the character seeks help in constructive ways, and I don't know that the tape element of like the almost puppet mastery, making people do your bidding after you're gone thing. I think that's problematic. That's what I mean by a revenge fantasy.
Well, and for her, I think for that character, absolutely was a revenge fantasy. But I think a large point of the show is watching the damage she did to the people around them, watching the damage that people did to her to kind of bring her to that emotional point.
For sure.
And then seeing how non-glorious that suicide was.
That was good.
Like
I'm glad that they didn't pull any punches on that. It's gross and painful and awful to watch.
Yeah. I think the biggest mistake this show can make is to make a season 2.
And they're doing it.
Oh no.
13 more reasons why.
They're doing it. I mean, it's got to be a whole other cast and story, right? There's no way they could actually make a sequel.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think, like, the show, I just don't see how they can do that. Like, the whole, each episode's a tape. I mean, pretty much, right? So
that's what I'm saying. It can't be a true sequel. It's got to be a whole, sort of like American Horror Story. It's got to be like a serial type thing.
Yeah, and I don't need to know what happens to any of these characters. I mean, they might center it around that.
Their story is done.
Yeah, and I don't. I think that's disappointing to learn. That's too bad. But
their story is done, and that's indicated. One of the shots that I really, really liked. It's at the very, very end of the series, and they're all riding in a car together, a bunch of the characters, and that whole show, the modern time is shot with the color super washed out, and all the flashbacks have the color turned up, and then the last scene is them in modern times, and they're driving, and he's sort of let it go and come to terms with it, and the color fades back in.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't pick up on that at all.
Oh yeah, I did, and I thought that was really, really good. And that's the end. That's just got to be the end. If you make a second series, it's got to be a whole new cast, a whole new story, a whole new characters. You can't continue this. It's done.
It's also one of those shows where you can watch it multiple times and get a lot of new information from it, like, because it's constructed like the whole first episode without you knowing who's coming on the tapes. You don't understand any of the character interaction, but after seeing the series and going back and watching it, like, all the character interactions in the first couple episodes have completely different contexts, which is I love it when a movie or TV show or comic or something can do that.
Yeah, when you can watch it again.
Yeah,
for sure.
But okay, so number 2. Dear White People. Dear White People is a story of a college campus. It has, I think, a dozen or so episodes, and there are, you see the world from, I think, 6 of their perspectives. 6 or 7 of them, something like that. Each episode has a narrator that's almost comedy of manners style narration.
A what?
Comedy of manners, like...
what is that?
Well, you know, when you, like a, I would say Lemony Snicket is kind of a comedy of manners styles. It's that proper, almost English narrator kind of introducing you to things.
Oh, okay. Okay, kind of a, like Arrested Development-ish? Or less snarky?
Arrested Development didn't have, like, well, here, like the entirety of Jonathan Strange and Professor Norrell, I would consider a comedy of manners piece. It's the too polite but still trying to be rude kind of situation. But, you know, instead you have a narrator doing it. But kind of just the classic English. Chances are if you were thinking of an English narrator, you know, that accent, you know, taking you through something, then I think that is pretty much it.
John, Jake, did you ever read Hitchhikers?
Yeah.
I never read it, no.
Is it kind of like that where their narrator is almost its own character?
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think comedy of manners is defined by that whatsoever. Like there being a narrator, I just think that falls in that kind of style. I wish I had read more comedy of manners books. That's not a series. That's just a thing I've
genre, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, but I think Jane Austen, for instance, is supposed to be a writer that does a lot of comedy of manners type work. But I've never read any Jane Austen, so I don't know. That grunt of disgust from Randy.
There was this. I'm going to totally derail this. There was both my parents are teachers, and there was only one book ever that I was allowed to get the Cliff's Notes for in school, and it was one of Jane Austen's books. And my mom, it was a classic. Pride and Prejudice.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm laying in my bed reading this for AP English, and my mom's like, "Oh, this is a classic. I've never read it. I'm going to pick up my own paperback, and I'm going to read it too." And so she's in her bedroom reading it, and I'm in my bedroom reading it, and I'm like, Ugh. And then all of a sudden, my mom opens up the door and leans in and goes, "Do you want me to buy you the Cliff's Notes for this?" And I went, "Yes."
That's funny.
That's the only time that ever happened. She couldn't even get through it.
So, but back to Dear White People. The initial name of the show, I was really worried about what this show would be. But I think it does a really good. Well, here, let me just tell you the kind of the premise of it. You're on a campus. You have a radio talk show DJ for the campus who has a show segment she calls Dear White People. She is half black, which they like. The show is obviously a lot about race, right?
Sure.
And without giving it away, the show basically starts with her revealing that a fraternity is throwing a blackface party. And kind of protesting and craziness kind of ensues from there. The show's got a lot of shit to say, and it's got a lot of pointing out hypocrisy in basically every single character in the show. But like you kind of start out from her perspective and what she's seeing and who she's dating. And then, like, it moves on to this kid who works for, like, the local newspaper or something, who is gay, and his roommate in his dorm is not gay, and he's highly attracted to his roommate. And they move through these different characters that all have kind of the talking points you're used to hearing, and you get to see it kind of executed in this college social environment that I think is really good, and it's I think it's way more balanced than you would expect. The only person who doesn't get an episode is the throwaway fraternity character guy, who's obviously like fairly like I won't.
Is he a stereotype for you to hate?
Yeah, he's just kind of a stereotype party guy who has no problem with racist jokes, but.
Yeah,
you know, isn't putting like a Ku Klux Klan or Nazi thing on, you know. But
right.
The other thing is, like, I think if you like hip hop, I think the soundtrack's fucking awesome. But it's a show I really like, and I encourage everyone to at least give the first episode a try. Like, you will probably know whether you want to watch it by the end of it, or I say that. Watch the first episode, watch the first 15 minutes of the second episode, and if you aren't feeling it, then ditch it off. But I suspect because it has such an extreme shift in world perspective, that it'll keep you going. And then when you keep in mind that, like, I think about every character gets 2 episodes that you get from their perspective.
That's always a cool tool.
Yeah. So, the series is like 12 episodes long or 13 episodes or something like that. So you're gonna get a lot of shift in perspective on what's going on and see the same event from different angles. And it's a really I think well written show. It made me hate characters and then love them again. I really enjoyed it. But
does everybody get an opportunity to look good and bad? Like,
I think so.
Is it pretty equal that way?
Yes.
That's one of the things I always like. I don't like it when there's just one bastion of virtue.
Well, you aren't gonna,
because nobody's that way.
You aren't gonna come out of the show going, "Oh, that said white people was inherently evil." Like that's not their message at all. Like their message, I think, is more politically centered than you would expect from something titled "Dear White People."
Sure.
But so number 1, and I like John Oliver, but Legion is one of the best shows ever made. Period. If you have not seen Legion, you have to see Legion. It is 8 episodes. It is fucking phenomenal. It is fantastic. Legion. It is the best
I've even heard of it.
Piece of superhero television there is. Legion is Professor Xavier's son, and is crazy. The TV show has next to nothing to do with the movies, though.
That's the one with
what does it air on?
FX.
FX, yeah.
That's got chick from Parks and Rec in it, right?
Yeah, Aubrey Plaza.
Thank you.
Don't look into who anyone plays. A large portion...
The casting is spoilers?
Yeah, well, I think looking in character names is spoilers. I haven't looked at the IMDb page. I would recommend you don't. The thing about Legion is Legion's character is, one of the most powerful mutants ever. And he's never really quite sure whether he's seeing reality or not. And that plays into the show very heavily.
Now, you keep saying that when this comes up, but why is he the most powerful mutant ever? Like, has he got, like, a light phoenix in him or something?
Does it matter why?
I mean, what does he do?
He has telekinesis, he has telepathy, and he has them in very extreme forms. In the show, he can teleport. In the comics, he can fucking travel through time.
Oh, shit.
That makes sense, because they always played, like, Professor X was a telepath, and he was very powerful, but he was not a telekinetic.
Like,
right?
The gimmick in the comics is that every personality he has a different mutant power. And in the comic, he's something up to 100 different personalities right now. And they do, like, the initial comic storyline with him is fucking crazy, too. Because one of his personalities is a suicide bomber, like a Muslim suicide bomber. And this was in the early 80s before this was even a topic. And it does not... It is surprisingly fair to that personality.
I was going to say, it seems like that would be... not pardon the pun, but it seems like there'd be a lot of landmines trying to write that.
Well, he has 3 personalities at that point that are all vying for control of his head. Like, he has a cowboy in his head, he has a girl that reminds me of Tank Girl, I can't remember what her deal it is, and then he has the suicide bomber. And these are all people he absorbed from reality, for the most part. I forgot what I was saying. No, where am I?
You take 2.
Yeah. Right, they're all people he absorbed from reality, and kind of what you find out is actually the villain of the piece is the cowboy. And the...
Just like in Westworld.
Yeah. The the suicide bomber actually winds up being one of the good guys, oddly enough. So, but if Westworld had come out in 2017, that would be on this list. But Legion is by far, like, they make some awesome stylistic choices. They do lots of crazy shit. They do lots of fucking just, they play with the environment a lot. They play with your expectations a lot. They play with music and really kind of live out the characters. The mutants they have in the show all have really weird fucking powers. You have one chick whose power is, if she touches you, you switch bodies with her for a certain amount of time. You have another character whose ability is to fast forward and rewind any of your memories. It's the soundtrack I think is amazing. It's very 70s-esque. The whole show is very kind of late 60s, early 70s-esque in terms of color and style of dress and things like that. But I highly recommend it. So it is 8 hours of your life, and it is 8 hours that I think you're going to want to experience multiple times. But anyway, and for that matter, if I were to award a favorite soundtrack, it would be Legion. Like, I'd forgotten how much I liked that show till I watched some of it earlier today.
It's really John Carpenter-y or something, right? Is that one?
No. What? Oh,
no. Okay.
The soundtrack?
Mm-hmm. You were saying that about something this year, but I forget
that'd
what.
That'd be Stranger Things. Stranger Things is John
Oh,
Carpenter.
yeah, that's for sure. Okay.
No,
right.
Legion is not. It has horror moments. Definitely. But for the most part, the soundtrack is kind of this kind of 70s funk and then 70s electronic kind of instrumentation thing. But I think all the performances in it are great. I think the effects are pretty awesome for a TV show. I think anyone who watches it is going to be floored. I can't call it the best TV show of all time because that's just hyperbole, but it's a really good show. It's my favorite show for this year. So, okay. Would you guys mind if we took a short break before we got into Vigi games?
No, that's cool. I need to go grab a glass of water real quick anyway, so that'll be fine.
We'll be back in a moment.
Like 2 minutes. Sit tight. Okay. So I almost tripped over my furniture is all in the way to get to wherever I need to go. Because I just got this, I got a rug for my family for Christmas. It's a big-ass rug. It's like 9x7.
Rugs are expensive, man.
Oh, it wasn't bad. It was like 150, 180. It wasn't terrible. And I had to drag it up 3 flights of stairs mostly by myself, which sucked because the thing's like 110, 120 pounds.
People thought you were dragging a body.
Well, that's what it got me to thinking is like...
To your apartment, not out of your apartment.
Well, the old gag is always, they roll them up in a carpet and take them out to the river. Like, don't roll them up in a carpet. Carpets are fucking heavy, dude. Like, that guy's going to be heavy enough. Put him in, like, aluminum foil or something.
Yeah.
Plus, he stays fresh then.
Foil. Right, you could freeze them.
So anyway, that's the first order of business once we get off the cast here. So I got the pad down, and then roll out the carpet.
So are the floors in your apartment hardwood then?
They are.
Or concrete or something?
They're faux hardwood.
Ah.
But when it's fucking the wind chill is 4 and it's 13 degrees out,
Man.
like, so that's the thing. I moved in here in like August, and I was fine. Everything's good to go. And then like it started getting cold, and I was like, oh shit, I need some slippers, man. Like, I got hardwood floors. This shit's cold. And I was like,
Yeah, but there's people
Fucking
below you with
October.
their heat on, right? It's not too bad.
yeah, if I, well, shit, my electric bill, because it's electric heat here.
Yeah.
My electric bill for November was $143 for a 1-bedroom. It's crazy. So I try to leave my heat off when I leave. I come back at night and it's, 56 in here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like the pipes are going to freeze or anything, but I need some slippers, and that's such a perfect Christmas gift that I couldn't go out and buy some, So I've been riding out cold floors for 2 months now.
It's been unseasonably warm, even for Tulsa.
Yeah, that's cool. Go fuck
It's
yourself.
It's 62 here right now.
No, for real. Go fuck yourself.
62 and sunny. Southern breeze.
Ugh.
There's people here that can't handle 62. They think it's cold. Probably the coldest I've ever been. Well, the coldest I've ever been in my life was at a football game in 2013 in Stillwater, Oklahoma. But it was second to that was in, you might know it, it's a little part of the Chicago area called Rosemont.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's almost where I work.
So years and years ago, like 10 years ago now, I was up in Rosemont auditioning for a drum corps that's out of there. And it was fucking cold.
What time of year is it? Oh, I assume winter, but are we talking
Yeah,
late January?
December.
Okay.
It might have. It was cold. Maybe it was unseasonable. I mean, it was. Also,
We've
I'm not
had
used
years
to it.
where it gets. I think when I was like 9 or 10, the wind chill was 60 below, and my cousin had a goddamn paper route that we had to help him with. Like, can they just not get the news today? Nothing's happening. Nobody's going anywhere.
No news today. Everyone's at home,
Mhm.
and you should be too.
Yeah, turn on the TV, asshole.
Madison was really cold too.
Oh, Madison's a great town. I love Madison.
Yeah, it was great. All I saw, again, this was for a drum corps audition the year after that, and I was up there in January, and we all had to camp in some high school. Whew, that was cold. I missed my flight back out, and the Madison airport, it's not some big hub. It closes, and
Isn't that weird?
yeah, and
Like that there's airports that close.
yeah, and they kicked me out. I missed my flight, and so my next flight wasn't until that morning. I was flying from Madison to Chicago to Tulsa, and they kicked me out, and fortunately I had a sleeping bag because that was the kind of audition it was. Like I said, we were sleeping in gyms, and so I had my sleeping bag with me, and I had to sleep in the foyer at the entrance to the airport.
Oh my god.
It was cold as fuck. It wasn't too bad until it got to early in the morning and people started coming into the airport and the doors started opening a lot.
Oh no! Well, by then you could have just gone in, right? Or was it like employees and they couldn't let you in yet?
Yeah, employees started coming in, and then like an hour after that, I was able to.
Oh, that sucks.
That was miserable.
Okay, so I'm just checking my flight for Dallas.
Dude, you're gonna love it in Dallas. It's gonna be nice and warm.
I actually don't think that they're letting us leave the hotel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were sending emails out, be like, "Hey guys, we just started doing this a couple years ago. Don't fucking ruin it. You're not leaving the hotel. Don't get too drunk. we're not losing anybody." Like, yeah.
John, what's the coldest you've ever been?
What? I have no idea.
Well, you weren't here, and we got to talking, and you know how conversations go, and now we're on coldest times.
I mean,
Oh shit! So my flight after the next show, my flight's not till 12:30. So
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
I will totally be on.
Yeah,
the
you'll
show.
be fine. How long is it on the train to O'Hare, I guess?
I'm actually probably gonna drive. We're only going there overnight,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's like $7 to park or something.
What's the other one? Midway? Do people still fly out of Midway?
Oh yeah, I do every chance I get.
Really? Okay. We've just got the one.
Bake, I've got 2 weeks for it to get warm. All right, it's gonna get warm.
Dallas is not warm? I don't know. Like, define not warm. Like, not warm for Dallas is in the 40s.
I mean, he lives in the Houston region.
Yeah, Houston's even warmer than Dallas typically. Maybe not right now, but typically.
Okay. So, John, do you want to set up? Do you want to do a clap or something, or are we just going to roll back into it?
Yeah, I'll do a clap. And
So, Randy, you're starting it, and then you're passing it off to John.
okay, I will do a clap and then intro us, and then we'll go. Okay.
Oh, right, because this is a separate podcast. Right. Okay.
Well, I'm not going to do the full intro, but
Welcome to the carousel.
yeah. So, welcome back to the carousel. We are going to talk about our favorite video games of the year now, and we're going to start with Randy.
All right, so I'm kind of limiting my choices to one, but I talked with the guys and they're okay with this. I'm going to put out Titanfall 2 as my favorite video game of 2017. I know it came out in 2016, but most of my time spent playing it was in 2017.
Wait till you hear one of mine, and you're going to feel
It's,
not silly at all for
okay.
that.
Definitely, once you consider updates and patches and things like that, the game really came into its own in 2017 for sure. And it's just, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say it is the best PvP shooter on the market right now. It might
Okay.
not be the most popular. It certainly doesn't have the biggest player base, but it is the best. It's got the widest range of mechanics that you can take advantage of. It's got the most customization for your, for lack of a better word, character. And
So
then
how
you add,
often are you
add in this
actually
whole-
in a mech?
Well, it depends. It depends on the game type. There's game types where you're in your mech exclusively and you can't even get out as a pilot.
Oh, okay.
The typical, I guess your standard game mode is what they call attrition, where it's just kind of it's team deathmatch, but there's AI that you can kill for points, and killing other pilots, killing AI, things like that. That builds your Titan meter, and then you do so well, and you can call in your Titan, and it drops from orbit, and then you climb in it, and you're in your mech suit. The one thing they changed from Titanfall 1 is that the Titans, the mechs, aren't customizable as much. There's
Okay.
6, I think it's 6. It's 6 or 7 that you can choose from, and they're pretty much the same. You can modify them in certain ways, but you can't really swap out their main gun or anything like that. In Titanfall 1, you could pick the chassis, the primary, the secondary. It was just like a pilot, and you could pick all your stuff. But in Titanfall 2, you would pick Scorch, for instance, and you could modify its kit slightly, but not really. It played mostly the same. And the movement system is amazing. There's wall running and grappling, and the bunny hopping they call it. And you can there's no game that's faster paced. Certainly no shooter that's faster paced that I've played.
You all right over there? You having a stroke?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how great it is.
Are you still playing this on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Or did Destiny sort of take over?
Well, I play it regular. Lately I've been playing Destiny more, but I still do load up Titanfall from time to time. The player base it was never high, but it has dwindled. Because as I said, it never took off. I mean, Call of Duty sort of gobbles up the player base, but it's not the most popular, but it's definitely the best. I think, John, you got it right.
Yeah, I haven't played it for a long time.
I know, but you and I played it a long time ago. There's definitely a learning curve, so I think a lot of people are turned off when they initially load up the game because you just get dead a lot.
Well, there's a lot of parkour and shit too in that, right?
Well, right, yeah, exactly. There's the wall running and there's double jumping and things like that, and the good players, when you're watching streams of the good players, they're rarely on the ground. And they're just hopping around on the walls and stuff. And it's unlike anything else. Because a Call of Duty, it's rendered in 3D, but really you're playing kind of on a 2D plane, right?
Yes or no, but yeah, I see what you're
There's
saying.
some hills and things like that, but you're not really having to check 3 dimensions that often.
Right.
But in Titanfall 2, and in Titanfall, but we're talking about Titanfall 2, you have to talk about, you have to check 3 dimensions constantly. There's really no angle, except I guess down, because you can't come up from the ground. But so let's call it a hemisphere that you have to check all the time, because the enemy can come at you from anywhere. And it's nerve-wracking in a good way. It gets your blood moving. You can move fast or slow. They have the weapons that allow you to snipe. You can play with SMGs and just run all over the map. The different Titans cater to different play styles.
Does that have a kill cam? Because it sounds like if it is as infuriating as you say, I would just immediately assume people were cheating.
Well, I mean, any game, people get accused of cheating in every game.
I know, and the kill cam tends to alleviate that, so that's why I was asking if there is one.
There is a kill cam.
Okay.
But as is often the case, when you get killed, you're so anxious to get back out there that you're spamming that respawn.
Of course. So,
anyway, that's my entry. It's a really, I think they're selling it for pretty cheap these days. If you don't have anything else, this isn't exactly a great review. This is not a glowing recommendation.
Nothing else to spend your money on.
The reason I'm saying that is because the game is a year old and there are other games coming out now. But if you've got some time and you maybe want to have a really cool experience, then you should definitely pick up Titanfall 2, even a year later.
Well, that single player even is supposed to be pretty badass, right?
The single player campaign. Well, and that was one of the knocks against Titanfall 1 is that they basically just didn't have a single player campaign. It wasn't a thing, and even they had it, but even the single player campaign took place. It was a multiplayer thing, and you had to wait for a bunch of people that were on the same story mission as you.
Ugh.
Yeah, so you had to do matchmaking to get into that particular mission, and it was just garbage, and so nobody played it. It was all PvP, and the PvP is definitely still the highlight of Titanfall 2, but they did improve the campaign. If that's going to be a selling point for you or not. The campaign is fun. I played through it. I think John played through the campaign too.
I did. And a couple of neat levels.
For the $12 or $15 they're probably asking for, it sounds like that's a good price for what that is. Yeah.
I would think, and there's.
I mean, even if you don't play the PvP.
I would say there's no shortage of fun to be had in the PvP. It can definitely be frustrating, but that's kind of the case with any PvP first-person game, right? But just in terms of the customizability, the unique gameplay, I'm telling you, there is not another first-person shooter out there like it. There's just not. No one else is doing the stuff that Respawn is doing in Titanfall. Period.
Cool.
So that's my entry. And who's next?
I guess that would be
John.
me.
John's up.
Okay, so I have some honorable mentions. I'm just gonna try and fly through these real quick. These are all games that I've only spent in the scope of the length of the game. I've only spent a fraction of the amount of time as I would have liked to really get a fully formed opinion on them. But they're all games that I think I like. So. Torment Tides of Numenera. I'm a Kickstarter backer of it, so that'll probably skew some of my view on it. But it seemed like a really cool sci-fi world. There's just a novel of story in every NPC in that game, and there's a lot of choice and consequence just in a lot of the minor stuff, and I don't know what the full story to that game is because I had to have spent 4 to 10 hours in that thing, and
wow.
I feel like I barely scratched the surface. You're supposed to be able to beat it in 20 hours or so, so maybe I'm just getting too caught up on side quests, but it's a really cool world. So, Divinity Original Sin 2. I really
need to pick that up.
I backed this on Kickstarter
cool.
for like $15. It is definitely one of those games where you can break the fuck out of the story if you want, but I also think that's kind of awesome. It has a lot of cool mechanics to it. You feel a lot more powerful, I think, especially if you put it on the easy mode. But And I think they simplified a lot of the combat system, and that game's a good-looking game. I think the co-op and it's fun. I need to get back to it. I just haven't. Metroid Prime: Return of Samus.
Is it on Switch?
No, it's on 3DS, and that is one of my main gripes and one of the reasons I haven't played it much, because it's so hard. Like, 3DS graphics have never been good. And
3DS is like 10 years old.
Yeah, and at this point, like, it's like, why can't this be on this other really high-end, like, handheld that I have, you know? But
yeah,
it's still a cool game. The Metroid fights I didn't feel were epic or particularly satisfying. Like, for something that you're hunting down and that is allegedly going to be all the boss fights for the game, they really feel anticlimactic to me. But, you know, being in that world, being Samus, getting the weaponry she gets, and it plays real well. It's a good place to explore. It's Metroid. So, Yakuza 0. I've spent probably 8 hours or so in this game, and I have barely gotten anywhere. This is a... I always thought it was an open world, and Boston over at TVGP has been telling me for the last year that it's not really, and I see what he means. It's kind of a brawler, like where you have side missions that kind of pop up on the road you're walking by, and you're like kind of on a specific section of town, but first and foremost, it is a brawler that's heavy on narrative.
That might change the sort of math for me on that one, because I was like, this, even if this was an open world game, like, this is not up my alley, and then throw the open world on top of it, and I'm like, fuck it. Yeah. But you just turned that into a maybe for me.
Well, and it has the side stories in it are absolutely ridiculous. I'll give a minor spoiler for one of them. So, like, the main story is very serious, like Yakuza kind of you know, political positioning and things like that. The side stories are, hey, I walked by a dominatrix who is really bad at her job and stops you randomly and asks you to help. She's basically like, hey, you look stern and authoritative. Can you teach me to be that? And you're like, I don't know if I should do that. And then you agree to it, and hijinks ensue, and it's absolutely ridiculous. The brawling system, I think, is fun, but I feel like they're going to introduce a lot more to it. You get multiple different fight styles, and each fight style has its own skill tree, essentially, that you kind of buy into. But the general fighting around town seems pretty good, and I don't see how, like, one of the fight styles is called, like, Beast Mode or something like that, and basically your normal punch button, if you are near an object, he will just grab that object and then smash it into a person. And
okay.
Little did I know the main guy evidently has superhuman strength, because he will do that with scooters and motorcycles that are nearby. And I just, like, these guys are getting up after he beats them up and walking off, and I'm like, no, I just murdered that guy. I smashed a motorcycle into his head. Or I threw that guy's face on the ground and then jumped on it. Like, it's pretty brutal, but it's
what?
It's very arcadey in its brutalness too, but it's it seems like it's gonna be a game I like.
Is that a PS4 exclusive?
I believe so. I think Sega's had talk of bringing it to PC, but I don't know. I don't think they have. So, and then the other honorable mention I'll do is Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Whoa!
I feel like I can't say anything about this without coming off of passive-aggressive for people who are obsessed with this game. I've been kind of reevaluating my position with the Zelda franchise, because truthfully, I have not put significant time into a Zelda game since Ocarina of Time, which came out 20 years ago, essentially.
Yeah, I was just thinking that myself the other day, like, because I was listening to a cast or reading an article or a comment or something, and someone was saying, like, I don't think I'm a Zelda fan anymore. And I thought about it, I was like, well, shit, yeah, I haven't played one since the 64 for really any amount of time.
Well, in this game, I've probably put, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours or something into. Probably not enough for any of the big adamant fans of the game to value my opinion on it, which is fine. But to me right now, this game essentially is a really good Ubisoft-style open-world game. Because you hunt stuff, there are towers that reveal portions of the map, and you can walk around everywhere, but that's kind of typical open-world thing. And the world is fairly... It feels fairly empty to me. Now, in terms of, yeah, you can walk over there, and there's probably going to be a puzzle or a shrine or something like that for you to solve or battle. But you, like, so far, the villages feel fairly dead. It has
Really?
kind of a Far Cry feel, I think. Far Cry 3 feel, I think, in terms of population and who you run into. And, you'll see guys walking around and things like that. And they have some random events. But
I feel like Far Cry 3 and 4 both had dudes all over the place.
well, I'm saying...
guys driving back and forth on the roads and...
Yeah, but it didn't feel... It felt mechanical, not lived in.
Okay.
Like if you're in Skyrim, you're concerned about joining a guild or gaining property or things like that, or following the story. And the world is gorgeous, and you're walking around it, and you were running into fairly lived-in places where people have stories and things. Whereas Zelda, I don't feel like the people have stories. I feel like they mainly kind of just exist to get you to the next puzzle or game mechanic, which is fine. I think obviously there's a huge audience for it. It is a massively critically acclaimed game. It is not the best open world in my opinion, but I am enjoying it. I do not love it or fully... I'm not one of the Zelda crazed fan people. I think having that level of love for something kind of skews your critical perspective on it. But it doesn't matter. That's just where it is. So I have an 8-numbered list. So number 8, Prey. I really like Prey. I still haven't gone back and beaten it, but it's almost a Deus Ex game to me to a degree.
It is very much Deus Ex-y.
Yeah, the get the code to the door, or crawl through the duct to get through the door, or do X plus Y to get through the door. You have multiple options.
Shoot the switch with a Nerf gun, or build a wall up the wall with the glue gun.
It's I really like the Deus Ex-ness of it, and the Metroidvania-ness of it, and I have really enjoyed going through everyone's stuff in that game. But it's a very pretty game. It was I wasn't too big on the shooter aspects of it, which is I think why I ultimately haven't gone back. But it still has a lot of cool mechanics, a very cool spaceship, I guess. I want to say world that they built. But anyway, number 7, The Remains of Edith Finch.
Have you talked about that yet?
No.
I don't think I even knew you played that.
No. I had never really even, I think I'd heard the name of the game. I didn't even know what it was or give it any heed until it won Best Narrative at the VGAs, which kind of pissed me off at first. I still don't know that it deserved it, but it's a really good game in terms of adventure games or walking simulators if you prefer. But it is a 2-hour experience. The first day I got it, I went and bought it and played through it, and got to the end. I'm like, well, yeah, that was all right. I don't know that deserved the hype. And then I made Susie play it later that night, and I was able to just put my desires for those awards aside when she did that, and really kind of experience the game again through her, and notice a lot of the details they put into the environment in the house. The game is essentially you are basically going through and learning about the Finch family tree by exploring the house, and you kind of find out what happened to each one. And as you find out what happened to each one, you go into like a different play segment. And sometimes these are really short things, and sometimes they're really long things, and they all have different mechanics to them. It is less playing a game with well, okay, for the most part, there is not particularly a goal other than traversing the area when it happens. But every time it happens, it's pretty cool. I think they kind of blow their wad on the first one in terms of the first time it happens, it is the most awesome one, and all the others are cool.
That's with the tree and the hill and the fish?
Yes.
The big fish?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's a really cool experience, but it did not... I need to listen to some casts or read some reviews for people who think it's one of the best games ever made, or best narratives, or games that they like that seems to have emotionally impacted a lot of people, and it didn't do that to me, and I need to figure out what I'm missing and kind of understand it from their perspective. But either way, I really like that game. So number 6, West of Loathing. I need to get back to that game. I love buying stuff with meat. I love puns. I love that clowns are from another dimension.
Yeah.
I love that.
I still want to pick that up.
Everything is fucking ridiculous. I love West of Loathing. I think that is a inexpensive, fun excursion anyone can have, and I recommend you do it.
Put that in my wish list right now.
Yeah. Number 5, Blaster Master Zero. I love Blaster Master, and this remake is just, like when I had gotten it, I really hadn't felt compelled to really play a game for a long time. And I got it and just played it for like 6 hours straight. And then like woke up the next day and played it for another like 4 hours. And then like even just talking about it now, I'm like, man, there's still... I didn't get the best ending. I know it's just a minor thing, but there's just a couple places I need to go find and explore to get it. I love the Blaster Master, the driving your tank around in a 2D world, platforming, and then going into these little caves as a little guy, and just such a great game. Number 4, Persona 5. So fuck adults, am I right? The Persona 5 is, in a way, it's not as good as I wanted it to be. And in another way, it's phenomenal. The soundtrack, I think, is amazing. All the Persona soundtracks are great, but like 3 and 4, I think, are very similar soundtracks. And this one, I think, moved a little bit more away from like Japanese pop towards this really cool jazz and kind of funk rock style.
When Japanese companies take over, or not take over, but sort of utilize jazz in like their kind of, like your Final Fantasy 14 or 15 battle music or whatever, where you have like the sweeping strings and orchestras and stuff, but then they also work the jazz in. Like, I know America came up with jazz, but I think Japan has maybe figured out the best way to use it.
This game does... It just... I don't know if I agree with you on the jazz. I'd have to think. Like, that's a big question to me. Because we got a lot of jazz over here, but not in our games at all.
Yeah, I guess I should have clarified that by saying in video games.
Yeah. But the... man, they have this one track called Shapeshifter. And they have about 4 different versions of it. And one version is just this electric organ that's in it. And it is so, like, somber and lonely and almost warm at the same time. It is such a good track. And, like, they have a vocal version, and it creates this... For a game you're going to spend, 60 hours to beat, it is helpful to find interesting ways to vary the music if you're not... Because you aren't going to write 60 hours worth of music for it.
Yeah.
But anyway, besides that, I think for the most part the dungeons are pretty great. I don't know that the dungeons will stand the test of time, since they're all kind of based around being kind of a puzzle gimmick. But the characters I enjoyed. I love that the plot is exposing these corrupt adults in the world who are just abusing the systems around them to to do horrendous things to people. So number 3, when we started the cast, Jake, you had a suspicion about what would be our number 1.
Oh, is it number 3 for you?
And I'm willing to bet that you meant Horizon Zero Dawn. You may not have. You can reveal it later if you like. But
okay.
My number 3 is Horizon Zero Dawn.
Okay.
This is another... you see, this is kind of like the Ubisoft open world formula again. But it has the best version of towers. And it is the best combat.
You mean the fucking 80-foot tall flying disc head giraffes?
Yes.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah. The
That's
tower
cooler than a
moves
lighthouse.
around. There are enemies everywhere, so you have the option of do I sneak around the enemies, or I try and take them out beforehand? The answer is you sneak around them because the giraffe will take them out for you afterwards. But and like the DLC one, they do something slightly different with it too, which I thought was pretty cool. I won't spoil it, but like the hunting in this game, like in the varied weapons, and I don't like, they have a lot of really good, cool, fun weapons and tactics in that game, but I also think they overload that end when they didn't need to, because they already had such an original take on the combat. The cities in this game, particularly the Sun City, whose name I can't remember, but like that feels like a fucking crazy, weird-ass, ancient future city. Like it's great, and I love covering the lore, and the game is just absolutely gorgeous. It's a wonderful game. It is mind-blowing to me also that the main girl is voice acted by Hey Ash, what you playing? Like, I'd been thinking there was a separate voice actress with the same name as Ashley Birch, and I was wrong. But anyway, number 2, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Hellblade is a game I think most people should give a chance. It is... I know people have said it's not long. I think if you go through it and do everything perfect and immediately figure it out, that you might be able to beat it within 5 hours. But I think in reality you're going to spend like 8 hours in it. This game is just a high-end cinematic experience that is unique unto its own, that I think delivers an experience that you're only going to get from a video game. Between the perspective puzzles to the voices, I still haven't played the game with headphones on, and they have a little documentary clip thing that kind of interviews a lot of the people who gave them input on the psychology of Psychosis for the game, and they show some of the recording techniques that they use to get the voices, and I probably do need to give the headphone thing a chance at some point. My 5-year-old video card did not do great with this game, though. But the sound design in this game is just top notch. Like occasionally you'll get like this really cool like Viking chanting thing in the background that you have to follow. The combat I liked until it made me fight more than 3 guys at a time, and then I started hating it. But I think in terms of low enemy counts, I think the fighting's pretty good. And what I did, there's one particular part on a bridge that I just was dying over and over, and I probably wasted an hour on that one. But
How were you dying over and over?
In combat.
Like, because there were too many dudes, or was it like
Yes.
cheap, or
No,
just too many dudes?
They've designed the combat to be really good at one-on-one.
And did you fuck up and like grab too many, or is the encounter set up to where there are just 3?
No, the encounter's set up to where you're generally fighting like 5 or 6 at a time. It is very it is very frustrating. So I set that to easy and then got through it. That did all the, like, I guess you do more damage or they have less hit points or something like that in easy. But the game is absolutely gorgeous. It delivers a narrative experience unlike any other. It's a really, I think everyone should check it out. I think you are at minimum guaranteed a completely unique experience.
I bought it. You convinced me. I picked it up. It's already downloaded.
Sweet. hopefully you don't hate it.
Well, if I do now, it won't matter because it's it'll be after the cast of records. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Like if you do hate it, it'll probably just be for the combat. But honestly, as I said, I don't think the combat's bad. I think it just gets bad when they make you fight too many guys at the same time. And you may be better than the combat than me, and my issue with the combat also may be my computer and the fact that I was playing it on a 5-year-old video card through my Steam Link on an Xbox controller, like an Xbox 360 controller at that. So like all of those could have contributed to my frustrating experience, you know.
okay.
But anyway, and number 1 is Nier Automata.
Okay.
It could only be Nier Automata. Nier Automata ruined games for me for 3 months.
It could only be.
I did not want to play, like, it's a game that I'm going to be thinking about for years to come because of the crazy, like, philosophy and psychology that goes into it. Like, it takes humanity and these robots imitating humanity, and it's like, oh, well, the main character's, you know, kind of this sexualized form. Well, what does that say about humanity that we designed these androids that have a sexualized form? You know, like there's... Well, I believe the argument against it in reality is completely valid. I also think that it's commentary on our society and how we are as people and how we interpret things and assume things. I think is just as valid as well. The gameplay, obviously, I was real frustrated with the gameplay at first. I think the gameplay gets good, and I think it gets good by letting you cheat.
Yeah, because I played the demo, and I noped the fuck out of that. Because that combat, to me, was not fun. The swordplay wasn't great, and the shooting was just terrible. I mean, it felt like your bullets weren't doing anything, because they weren't. What specifically changed that made the combat get better?
They, man, I should have booted this game up before this podcast. What changes is you get things to equip in your guy that changes, it completely manipulates how the combat flow works. And it's anywhere from, now you have a move that will, oh, what's a real example? Because I think I was just about to make one up. I mean, aside from the obvious, you know, up your HP, I'm pretty sure there's some like auto dodge style moves. There's some resurrection style moves. There's different types of weaponry you can give your little floating robot buddy to use. There is, you know, you get abilities to where whenever you hit someone, then you'll heal a little bit. You get a large variety of weapons that all have different animation time sets to them. I'm not going to say the combat's the best combat of the year, because I don't believe that. I think the primary reason to play Nier Automata is to experience the world and story. This is a very, you know, Japanese world. I think the soundtrack is very... Like, it makes me think of, like, Akira and Ghost in the Shell, like the original anime soundtracks, because they use that Japanese choir that we so rarely get to hear in things that are brought over to us anymore.
Yeah, that was the other thing that scared me off of that, is how fucking anime that game is. Like, I don't think you're going to convince me on that one like you did with Hellblade.
It's not chibi anime. And I think, honestly, Jake, your best bet may be to watch some videos on a playthrough. But, well, I say that. The hardest part about this game is you have to play through... The problem is you run through the game, and the initial run-through is almost entirely combat, very little story. And your second time playing through goes at least, you know, double the speed, if not triple or quadruple.
How many times did you go through this thing?
Well, I mean, the way the game's constructed is you beat it. It basically has the first half of the game, which you play through twice as different characters. And then you play through the second half of the game and do the same thing again.
So there's like, even though there's 26 endings, there's like 4 real endings? Is that what you're saying? And then the crazy fifth one that I won't spoil here?
What I'm saying is they are counting 2 of the endings as you only getting halfway through the game. And then the last 2 endings are actually just one... Well, yeah, no, the last 2 endings are actual different endings. And then the very last ending is just you saying, yes, please delete my save data, which it will do.
Okay, that was kind of what I was trying to avoid. But okay.
Yeah, well, and I don't think that's a...
I mean, Christ, it's been 6-7 months. So.
Yeah. I don't think that's a major spoiler. I think that's just warning people, hey, if you really are done with your save file on this game, then go ahead and finish it out. Or otherwise, maybe do whatever else you want to do. But the amount of thought put into this game in terms of what the world is, what all these different androids and robots are doing, and why they are fighting, and what they are trying to be and emulate, and kind of the reflections of humanity in every leg of it, and what it says about us as people and our capabilities and thoughts and what our legacy as a race will be, I think are, like, it's really, really an awesome game and really, really mind-blowing. But anyway, that is... I guess also real quick, my favorite game soundtracks of the year are Nier Automata and Persona 5, with probably Nier Automata edging out Persona 5 just because it is such an original soundtrack. So, but I can't recommend Nier enough. I don't know that you'd survive it, Jake, just because that first playthrough is going to take you 7-8 hours, and I don't think you'll enjoy the first playthrough.
That's about 6 to 7 too many.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could put it on easy, and maybe you'll fly through it more, but...
See, even those themes aren't something I really care about. That hard sci-fi stuff. It's not... doesn't really do it for me.
I don't know that I would call it hard sci-fi. Like, I think of Interstellar as hard sci-fi, like, for most of that movie, until he gets in the black hole. And this I don't think I consider hard sci-fi.
Okay, what is it then? Fantasy, sci-fi? I guess I don't know what the genre is named, but it's full of fucking robots and androids.
When I say hard sci-fi, I've always thought hard sci-fi meant that you were seeing, like, realistic-looking spacesuits and space shuttles and, like, equipment that is just evolved beyond reality. And this is anime as fuck, like sci-fi.
if that's what that term means, then yeah, I was wrong. But yeah, this seems way too outside my.
Like, well, and here's another thing you can do. Like, if you're never going to play it, Jake, is go listen to the Waypoint spoiler cast with those guys on it, and all of those guys, I think, are way more, especially Austin, I think, are way more articulate in kind of saying, like, peeling back the amount of layers and thought in that game, in the shit that game says and does and has you do. But anyway, so Jake, how about you?
Okay, so I have a couple of awards to give out before I actually get to my list. First up, we have the I hope that's the last one award. That goes to South Park: The Fractured But Whole.
Yeah.
We don't need another one of those games. The next one is the best game I rented this year for 3 days and never need to play again. That one goes to Destiny 2. Fuck the rest of Destiny 2. We have game that I shouldn't have played and have promised myself that I will never play again. That one goes to Mass Effect Andromeda. However, it's still not the worst game I've ever played because I did not throw out the disc. The only game I've ever thrown out, like literally threw in the garbage, was Azura's Wrath. So there you go, tagging up on the anime thing. I really love it. Last award, the game I wish ended up a lot better than it actually did, and that's Flint Hook. Man, that game really had a shot at being good. The controls are real tight on that thing. It's a cool concept, and it was just, excuse me, it was just too repetitive. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to throw it back in. I think I still have it installed, and play more of it. But it's just I want it to be on this list, and it failed me. So I have 7. I actually have this game higher than you because I could not find another game to put over it, and that's Prey. It is last on my list. It kind of squeaked in because of the goodwill it gets on those first few hours. You know, that intro to that game. Oh, and the soundtrack at the beginning. That song when you're flying around in the helicopter, so to speak. That wong, wong, sort of kind of synthy 80s-ish thing. Do you remember that?
I don't. I remember liking the sound in general in that game, but I can't recall any specific soundtrack from it.
You should go watch a video of just like, helicopter intro Prey, because that song is awesome. I don't know that any of the music. I don't know if there really is too much music in the rest of the game, aside from like maybe during some quote-unquote cutscenes, like when you're getting story progression, or like when that big giant... Oh, God, what's the big giant one that chases you sometimes?
The Nightmare?
The Nightmare, yeah. There's music during that, but I think for the rest of it, it's just like space noise, right?
I think so, yeah.
Um...
I'm going to call this game a going through other people's stuff type of game.
You're going to call it what?
Going through other people's stuff game. Like, I think that's what Deus Ex and this are kind of to me. Because that's what you do.
You do. I liked the promise of the space station a lot more than I think I ended up liking going around it and going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And that piece really kind of hurt it in the rankings for me, because I wasted a lot of time walking around to places where I didn't actually need to go. The waypoint system, either I was using it wrong or it's just bad, or both. But I wasted a lot of time in loading screens because I just was pissing away 10 minutes in this place, and then I get in a fight, and then now I'm at worse health and have less bullets and got nothing accomplished. But man, the beginning half of that game is so good that I almost don't care. Like I'll be willing to just forget that ending ever happened, because God, is it bad. Can I spoil it for you, John? I mean, not with specifics.
Yeah, I don't care.
It was all a dream. Yeah, that's the face. That's the one. Yep. I mean, it's not exactly that, but that is the approach that they took to it.
That's always such a lazy answer.
So I'm going back to, I don't know, I just remembering this from when we did our original cast on that, and those people needed help that were like trapped in the pod, like the lifeboat, and I was like, no, I can't help these people, because if this thing gets back to Earth, everybody's fucked. And like, it's just kind of funny that I took it so seriously. But there's enough good stuff about that game that it's still worth playing, even with all its drawbacks. The enemies start out super good and sort of taper off, but like, I jumped a lot playing that game because these little spider crab bastards would just pop up out of anywhere. Coffee cup, a plant, like a piece of paper, or a chair. Any of these could be an enemy. And like, I don't know if they put the effort into doing this on purpose, or if it just happened that way and was fortuitous for my playthrough. But I would figure out it was a mimic. And then, like, as I'm clicking the button to swing the wrench and beat the fuck out of this mimic, it would come to life and like slap me. And then because I jumped, even though I knew it was going to happen, because I jumped, my arm would kind of move the mouse over, and I'd miss him. And there'd be like this fucking, like Tom and Jerry, where Tom's got a frying pan trying to whack Jerry. Just like whack-a-mole, missing so bad because they got me so riled up. The moment-to-moment stuff in that game is generally pretty good. So it made the list. But number 6, the further I've gotten away from this, the sort of less I'm liking it. Polygon really is the website that really jumped on the, here's our top stuff of the year early. I think they started like 2 weeks ago already. It's Wolfenstein 2. They had it pretty far down the list at like 9 or something, and I was like, 9? I said it like that, except I was speaking German. I was like, fucking 9? No.
A lot of people seem to have issues with the actual gameplay of that game.
Yeah. and that's the problem. It's going from moment to moment. Now there's a couple scenes, I guess maps, levels, whatever you want to call them, that are really good. There's one in a courtroom, where basically, it's kind of this sequence where, supposedly Blazkowicz got taken by the Nazis, and, they have him in court and they're trying him for all his crimes, and he finds a gun or like bites someone's neck or something and grabs their gun and just goes on this rampage in the courtroom. And how they resolve that is, boy, it's real good. But like that's kind of one of the only actual combat sections I remember playing and going, yeah, that was fun. It's the opposite of Prey in a way, in that it's not the moment to moment stuff. It's the world and the setting, and killing Nazis, don't get me wrong, that's never not fun. But kind of the weapons have sort of, they kind of, not that they used up all the cool weapons in the last game, but like we're used to them now. They didn't do a lot of innovating. And really, like I've been saying, if you're going to play it, drop it down one difficulty from where it starts. Because all it does is turn these guys into bullet sponges, and there's not a great indication of whether you're getting hurt or not anyway. This is stuff everyone said. But like it's worth experiencing, because they're just, it's not, Bethesda's the publisher, but I forget who actually developed that one. Do you remember, John?
I'm sorry. I was tying my shoe and my brain left me. What are we talking about?
Can you look up, while I'm yammering here, can you look up who the developers were for Wolfenstein?
Oh, that's, Bethesda, so that'd be id.
I thought id did Doom. Bethesda's
I thought they did both of them.
Okay.
I'll look it up.
Okay. Because that's really what shines on this game, is their storytelling and their world building and their characters. And okay. BJ's fucking wife, stick around to the end, because she does some crazy shit at the end. So,
the engine they use is id Tech 6, but the developer's Machine Games.
That's who I was thinking of, yep. The characters, story, world building, those are Machine Games strengths. And actually, we had a work thing on Thursday. We went to an old folks home, and we helped them, with their Christmas luncheon thing and whatever. But I was clearing tables, and I was bringing back a bunch of cups of coffee, and they had, a bunch of trash and some cups of coffee, and they have the real small sort of 6 or 8 ounce cups or something. They're real small. But this one was I had 2 that were still kind of half full. And I'm looking down at this tray to make sure I don't spill anything, and I'm trying to walk back to the garbage, the dishwashers and stuff. And it, I had this crazy flashback to the train scene in the first one, because I looked down and the coffee's sloshing around just like it was in there. It was pretty cool. Anyway, that's why that belongs at 6. 5 should be a lot higher, except for the fuckery around it. 5 is Injustice 2. I paid $100 for this game, if you guys remember.
I still need to get this game.
I am missing about half the DLC. And day one, you would get Darkseid as a playable character if you pre-ordered. I paid $100 goddamn for that game. And they wanted to nickel and dime me for Darkseid. They gave me the first pack, I think I have Sub-Zero, Starfire, Red Hood, and then maybe Lobo or something is the 4th DLC character for the first season. But if I pay you $100 for a video game, I want everything that's going to come out for that. Now I get it with Skyrim or Fallout or something like that. They're going to push, 4 $30 packs, 6 $30 packs. I get it if that doesn't work there. We're talking about characters in a fighting game. I feel like it kind of went under the radar as far as loot boxes go this year, because it was sort of one of the first ones to do it, and I guess it wasn't so egregious with the give us money shit that a lot of the folks have been doing later in the year here, because you would get mother boxes, which are what they call the loot boxes. You'd get them all the time. I remember signing on to the guild page a week or so after it came out. And between stuff that I'd unlocked, stuff that I gotten from timers, stuff that the guild had unlocked, I think I spent probably 25 minutes just opening loot boxes, and I didn't pay for a single one. It's like when they give you that many, it makes it a lot easier to not hate them. But you know what? Fuck all that. The gameplay is still really good. NetherRealm knows how to make a good fighting game. The story is, I still think, a little stronger in the first one, but the story is still really good here, and they go to some cool places. You know, they go to Grodd's Palace. There's some cool branching story paths that you can do with, like, Black Canary and Green Arrow and, Brainiac. There's really only 2 villains that you see thrown at Superman. You know, if people are starting a whatever, some kind of IP. And it's Lex Luthor, and then it's Brainiac. And I feel like neither of those guys is a really great villain. And Brainiac is definitely the less good of the 2. But aside from that, I mean, this is all top-notch stuff. It's got great voice acting. The mocap's all awesome in the cutscenes. It's beautiful. It moves super well. It's fun. There's a lot of characters. Like, it is... I can unquestionably recommend anyone picking it up, do not pay $60 or $100 for it. Number 4 is Cuphead. I've kind of said everything that needs to be said about Cuphead. The animation is amazing. It runs so beautifully. The art style's all great. You know, they've received some criticism about kind of like only picking the good stuff about that 30s and 40s animation out and not including the bad stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, it's okay to recognize that, like, there was a lot of racist shit in those cartoons, but would you really want us to put people in blackface in Cuphead? Like, I think the answer is probably no.
That's absurd that was ever a piece of criticism leveled at that game. That's crazy.
Oh, wait. I got it. It was a tempest in a teapot. Because he's a cup, and then there's a mug named Mugman. It was hard. It was a hard game. I don't know. As far as the difficulty, like, I like difficult games, so this was perfect for me. I don't know that I can, without question, recommend this across the board like I probably could with Injustice, even though that's difficult in places too. Because what kind of sucks is, like, for a lot of games, you'll have it on normal, and then you'll get, like, extra stuff for doing it on hard. You know, like, you unlock a new character, or you get a different mode or something like that. But it's, you know, for people who can't maintain the skill level required to beat something on hard, they still get to feel like they beat the game. Well, here you have, at least in the, you know, when you first install the game, you have normal and easy. And if you bump it down to easy, you can only get 4 out of 5 stars or something like that. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel like maybe they should just yank a phase out of the boss, which they do that too. But just, you know, yank the phase and still let you get 5 stars, but make them green coins instead of yellow or something. Just to let people who don't necessarily have the skill level there still see everything in the game. Oh man, there's this level with where they've got this old. So let me finish my thought before I get to that. So people can see everything in the game, but still not have to spend 30 hours of their lives banging their heads against the wall to do it. There's this level in the second world, I think it is, where you're fighting like this Egyptian-themed villain, boss, whatever. And they have, in the background, it looks like real footage of like how they... So like back in the 20s and 30s, if they wanted to show continuous like travel, like in a background, you sort of had a couple options. One, you could set up a camera on a circle around a fixed thing and sort of have that just go around pointing at the center the whole time. Or you could like make one of those big, like a big tapestry that's like on 2 rollers and then just roll it horizontally so it looks like, you know, people are moving when they aren't. And they did the first one with this circle like on a pyramid. So in the background there's what appears to be live action footage of this old-timey camera, and it's got all the artifacts. What am I looking for? Like when stuff gets on the film and it's, you know, like hairs or imperfections or whatever, static kind of stuff. It's got that filter running over this live-action footage, and you're fighting the boss in the foreground. And, like, man, they did a lot of stuff right on that. I probably could have lived without the side-scrolling levels, but I get from a business perspective and a gameplay perspective why they left those in. Number 3 is Resident Evil 7. I think this is probably going to make a lot of lists, even though people have mostly forgotten about it by now. It was the first time in a long time I've been really scared playing a game. I mean, it wasn't quite PT levels of scared, but it was up there. Now that was another one where the first half of the game really sort of made up for the back half not being awesome. I don't know what is with excuse me. I don't know what is with the Resident Evil guys and ships like boats, but they're really into them, and I don't think any of the boats in any of those games have ever been in the strong suit. And of course, the plot kind of falls apart towards the end because it's a Resident Evil game. But the first probably 5 or 6 hours of that game are just... There's a reason it's number 3. Like, you don't need to play it in VR, although I'm sure that would help. It's just a genuinely scary first-person experience, and it feels like you're really there. So this is my technical game of the year. If I had my druthers, it would be number 2. But you'll see why when I get to my true number 1, why that couldn't fly. It's Horizon Zero Dawn. For most of the reasons John said. It's beautiful. The mocap's awesome. Ashley Birch was also... Christ, I just looked it up. She was also Tiny Tina.
She was also Chloe from... holy shit, what the fuck's that game called? The time-traveling point-and-click adventure Don't Nod game.
Life is Strange?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure that was her. I'm going to double-check myself now.
Tell you what, she's super awesome. Aloy is a great character. They built a really great world there. It seems weird that you have, like, weird Norse forests, and then you run through a valley, and it's literally a desert. And then you run for another, like, maybe a mile, and then it's like a deciduous forest.
Yeah,
and then there's weird plateaus.
For you.
I kind of liked how they sort of tried to justify it. Like, they said it was like Lake Powell or something like that. And they did the Springfield thing where it's like, we're at the Four Corners. Springfield is, borders Maine, Missouri, Washington, and Alaska. They kind of do that here because they're like, they mentioned Lake Powell. And then they mentioned some other, I looked them up at the time, some other sort of national, monument or something like that. And they're like a 9-hour drive away, and you just ran between them in like 10 minutes. But the plot's real good. They do a little, I would have liked them to spread out the info dump that they do a little bit more, instead of kind of waiting till you get to the one sort of facility, and then here's all your exposition for 20 minutes. I feel like they sort of missed an opportunity to keep the whole thing more engaging, and the actual boss kind of sucks. He's kind of something you fought like 4 times before, and I beat him on the first shot with almost no problems. But everything that you said, John, was right. Even though they give you way more weapons than you need, and it's almost decision or choice paralysis, there's some really cool shit in that game. The what was it? The terror bombs, the purple ones.
Those are pretty great.
Where you shoot this arrow into an armored fucking T-Rex, and it just explodes, and half this T-Rex's body has just fallen off.
Yeah, I used those a lot near the end game. I was real big on the terror arrows.
The terrors, yes. I feel like I could go back to that game, start a new file, and play completely different and still have as much fun. Using traps and...
Well, and they added a Save Game Plus, too, now. So... You could just start a new game and have all your old stuff.
I don't know if that would be... I mean, you know what? I would like that, because my biggest problem with that game was the Far Cry 3 hunting collect-a-thon bullshit. Like, shoot a fish, go find a fish.
Oh, man, the fish were the worst. I still have shit I gotta upgrade because I refused to sit by a river and wait for a fish to swim by. Like, if the rivers were actually fucking populated with fish, like, that would be one thing. But as is, like, I rarely find a fish, and I need like 3 fish skins to finish up my pouches. But anyway. Yeah,
and you need them quite a bit more than you should for as much of a pain in the ass as they are to find.
Yeah.
But just the cities, the characters, the villain, not great. But But overall, I mean, it really it's a gorgeous fucking game. I would love to see what that thing looks on with the PS Pro and the HDR with the 4K. Oof,
Man,
because it's gorgeous on my 1080.
yeah, I wouldn't mind if they do a PC release of it, honestly, but I mean, they're not going to.
I think it would probably kill my PC if they did that. Like, my PC is stronger than my PS4, but when they would do all the work to upgrade it to put it on PC, I think my PC would probably melt through my floor and then my downstairs neighbor's floor.
Exactly.
And just end up in the core of the earth somewhere. So, this is my controversial actual game of the year. It's Dota 2. It is goddamn Dota 2.
You motherfucker.
I have not really started playing it until this year. And, like, pretty late in the year, like maybe June, July. I've already got 114 hours in it. Like, and I haven't played a single online match. That's the beauty of it. That the game is, it's just such a great, put something on in Netflix in the other window. This thing still runs good. And you know, it's discrete, half an hour to 45-minute chunks. I'm learning a lot of characters, and I like MOBAs. I played League of Legends a bunch and only ever played that single player. Like, Valve put out a great game, and it's real polished. Now, when I say they put it out, they polished it up and re-released it. Because let's be honest, this is just kind of prettier Dota. But yeah, I don't do any of the loot box shit. I'm not participating in Frostivus, whatever that is. I don't watch matches online, except when the international rolls around. But yeah, it is the game if you don't count, you know, Cookie Clicker or something, it is the game that has single-handedly been running the most on my computer all year. And then what would have probably made my game of the year, maybe been my game of the year, and I should have played it, but I didn't, and I promised myself that I won 2018, is Neo. Neo will be in my wheelhouse for next year.
We'll see if it's too anime for you. That'll be the big question.
I played the demo. It's a little sort of samurai-ish for my tastes, but I think I can probably get over that.
Okay, so real quick, last year we did some predictions. I don't know that we want to do them again this year, but I want to read off what we said last year.
I have a couple, and I want to take a guess at what one of mine was last year.
Well, let's try.
Did I say the Switch wasn't going to work? Did I say it wasn't going to take off?
No.
Oh, okay.
So, I went back and listened to the end of our last year's podcast and kind of paraphrased some of them. Some of them I wrote out a little bit more than others. But let me go through them real quick. I'll go through yours first, Jake. So 1, Scorpio is out, not delayed. Most games will be focused on running on Pro and Scorpio.
I feel like I get half a point for that.
It's pretty true for the most part. I mean, that's the Pro is now PlayStation's default one, and any new game that comes out for it, I'm sure will have a Pro mode, right? And Microsoft is pushing. Well, I say that. Microsoft's fans are pushing Scorpio and Scorpio games a lot. I feel like I see the fans touting it more than the actual Microsoft, but anyway.
It is the strongest machine out there. I just don't know that are a lot of games doing anything with that quite yet.
So, number 2, Persona 5 delayed one more time. You hope it's 12 more months.
Fuck. I still wanted that to happen.
Number 3. And this one okay, I'll just let you guys listen to it. New Souls series announced, but not out. Has trailer with no text, no voice, just shows a bunch of pictures and whatever the title is. Like that's...
Didn't we have almost exactly that?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, from nothing trailer. I mean, you could argue that there are not a bunch of pictures, but that, like, you're the 4/5 right on this, you know.
I mean, and it just had the only text was the name of the game, which was Shadows Die Twice.
Yeah.
Wow, I fucking killed it.
Yeah.
Oh, go me.
Number 4. VR is not going to take off, not be in everyone's house, but won't be dead yet.
I feel like that's dead on.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Number 5. Ed McMillan is going to go back to releasing new IP. After January Binding of Isaac DLC, he's going to move on from Binding of Isaac. I don't know if that one's true or not.
I don't know if we have a way to tell that.
Yeah.
I mean, he did release a game in June that was very much more Meat Boy. Remember it? The End is Nigh? That came out. I don't think we've seen any other Isaac stuff. And technically, that's a new IP. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that's technically right, but the spirit of what I was going for is not what happened.
At best, it's a wash.
Yeah, your Soul's entry is what made me want to read through
Wow.
our things here. So, Randy's was VR will not take off, too expensive, not enough content. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
I don't
have it.
Did you have any, John?
I do. 1, Scorpio pushed to 2018. Obviously wrong. 2, no Xbox VR support. I believe I'm right. Number 3, World Engine July 2017. I mean,
technically you were wrong. We still have like a couple of weeks to make it this year. So it might still happen.
Is it July still?
Yeah, I called out July.
He would have been early, but still 2017. That's half a point.
I mean, it could have ended, and we just don't know it yet.
I think
like
that's
the virus is out of the lab and is just incubating somewhere.
I mean,
you'll never know.
Think of Rorschach and the Watchmen when they're like, has the end is nigh sign, and they're like, or I can't remember what the thing is that someone asked him, but he's like, they're asking about the end of the world, and he's like, are you sure it's not over already? Number 4, Red Dead Redemption 2 doesn't release.
I mean, yeah.
It didn't
Everyone
release.
wanted it to, but that was...
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't a gimme, but I felt like that was a gimme when he said it last year.
Number 5. Mass Effect Andromeda releases, and it is an average game.
I mean...
Would we even call it average?
That's what I'm wrestling with.
I feel like if you took it out of the Mass Effect franchise, and if it just wasn't related to Mass Effect at all, I bet most people would rate it like 6 or 7 out of 10. Would be my argument.
Yeah, 6.5 is
I think
probably...
Fine. But, John, it was released as Mass Effect Andromeda.
That's true.
You can't... Don't try to... Yeah.
I mean,
Don't try to separate that out.
His intent when he says it would be average is he meant it would be categorically average, not average for a Mass Effect game. That's not what he was saying.
I don't even know that... I know what he's saying, but I don't think that's a fair...
Well, and I get your point, Randy, and I don't think your point's necessarily wrong either, because truthfully, any franchise, any entry in the Mass Effect series that is released that is a categorically average video game to any other series immediately makes it much more worse, because Mass Effect is such a good series. So I see both arguing points. So. I think.
Well, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I can't get over how fucking dead on that thing was. Wow.
You get a half point in that it did release.
Well, he gets the full point, because whether you want to argue
out.
that it wasn't good enough to be considered average is one thing, but pretty much across the board, that's how people looked at it. That is a full point, sir.
Yeah, I don't even know if it was average.
I mean, would you say it's a terrible game?
Well, I will say it's a game I didn't play because I was grossed out by the intro.
Grossed out?
Yeah. What
was gross about it?
The weird facial contortions and the stupid tutorial. Float over towards your sister. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I've done this before.
Yeah.
I don't remember that piece. I was thinking of the first planet you land on, which is pretty fucking rad.
Yeah, I didn't even get that far. That's what I'm saying.
So from chat, Bakmato says, I actually rate Andromeda as offensive.
Yeah, I'm with you, Baki.
You know what? It had a couple of points that I was like, really... I went, okay, they might be able to turn this thing around. There's a thing on when you first meet the... I don't remember the name of the species, but the one new species that are good guys in this one. You need to go and take out somebody, or not, but you need to go and like save their matriarch, and you can decide whether or not to kill this person who's doing some real bad shit, and like against the wishes of the matriarch, I killed him And she was like, "Oh, buddy, you done fucked up. You're gonna need my help someday." And like, I asked for your help here, and you said no. You shot that motherfucker, and you're gonna regret it. And then like, it didn't. Fuck.
That never came to pass.
It could have, like, when I got done with that, I kind of had chills a little bit. I was like, okay, they're actually doing something here. My choices actually matter. You know, I know they're going to tie them back together at the end, whatever. But, like, cool. And then she just said some snarky shit to me later on, and that was kind of it.
Okay.
So do we have any for next year? I got 3.
Yeah, if you want to make them for next year, go ahead. Go for it.
Okay. So first one, X-Men don't show up in Marvel's movies until Phase 4 is done. That's even if, you know, the FTC or whoever decides that they're fine with Disney buying this big chunk of Fox.
I agree with that. There's no way the most you would get in... I don't think we'll see any mention of mutants in these next movies.
Well, so that's
because they're all in the works already.
Half of them are already filled, but Disney's smarter than that. You know, if this went the other way, Fox would be tripping over themselves to jam fucking Jean Grey into every goddamn Deadpool scene. Like, they're like a teenager on prom night. They're like, I gotta have it. Disney is more patient. They're like, look, we bought all these characters. We're gonna do this right. I think that's gonna take a couple years.
I think the most you can hope for is whenever Infinity War 2 comes out, whatever they call it, is they, like, the end scenario of them getting the Infinity Gauntlet back is now they're mutants.
Yeah, I mean, they might come up here or there, but, yeah. I think because of this,
it looks like Bachmano agrees with I feel like he reiterated exactly what I was saying. It just, time-lapse made it. Anyway, go on.
And I think that if this does go through, the Netflix series, they're going to finish what they got in the pipe, but they're basically done. I think they're not going to be interested in working with their biggest competitor on streaming, to give them more properties. So that's number one. I feel like that's the easiest of the 3. Second one is that Aquaman flops. Get it? Flops like a fish.
He's leaning back.
Aquaman flops, and DC doesn't learn that lesson and tries rebooting the whole mess again in 2020.
You're making a 2020 prediction?
I mean, okay, so if we make it to 2020...
Look, I'm not going to go back to this podcast. Like, I'm only going back to this podcast next year during 2018, so... keep that in mind.
Well, I can... All right, I can just leave it on my list here for the next 3 years. Or we can just say that Aquaman shits the sea or whatever. Okay, we'll say that Aquaman shits the bed and that it derails the rest of DC's movies for the year. How about that?
Oh, yeah, so everything hinges on Aquaman?
That it kills either the Flash movie or Cyborg or something. They just go, all right, we did Justice League and it didn't work. We did Aquaman, it didn't work. Fuck it. I guess we're done for now.
I don't think you understand how robust this planning is. Like, this shit is already on the board and gonna get made.
It might be intending to get made. When it comes to Disney, yes, this stuff is
the money is spent, I think, in large part, and they're putting this shit out. That's my prediction, is that this shit is going to come out anyway, bad reviews or not, because that's been the case so far.
Okay, yes, but if Wonder Woman hadn't have done well and Justice League hadn't have done well, you're seeing. I mean, Justice League didn't do well. It had its moments, but you're seeing. You're going to see headlines about Flash or Aquaman. I guess Aquaman's kind of already half done, from what I understand. But you're going to see Flash production put on hold, and then all of a sudden it's going to be 2 years, and it's going to be like, what happened to that? I think that's kind of the scenario that ends up happening, but we'll see how Aquaman does. Bakemono, yes, Batman v Superman was terrible and made shitloads of money, but Justice League did not. So, my third one is sort of. I think this is going to happen, but I don't know that's going to happen in the next year. PlayStation Plus and Xbox Gold change it up on the free game stuff. I don't know if those go away altogether with the free, games with gold or whatever, and the PS free or whatever they call it. Because not only are they starting to run out, in PlayStation's case, pretty badly, of older games to re-release, they both have these services that they're trying to push. PlayStation's got PS Now, Microsoft's got the Xbox Game Pass, which is, I don't know why you'd ever put the literal word pass in something you're trying to sell people, but whatever. Do you want one of these? I'm going to pass. But I think they're going to have to either kill off or sort of rejigger how these things work. Xbox certainly has a lot more games left to play with to put out because they, started doing this 2-3 years later. But I don't think that those are going to be sustainable as they are. So that's the one I think is probably the most iffy because the timeline's probably more a couple of years on that. But those are my predications.
Okay. Well, Randy, do you have any predictions for next year?
Well, I sort of made one in the conversation, but other than that,
okay.
No.
So my predictions for next year, I believe Sony is going to announce a new iteration of the PS4 that is more powerful than the Pro. I believe next year we are at some point going to get our first game that has cross-platform play allowed.
As in Microsoft and Sony?
Yes.
Does Rocket League not already do that? I thought they were the one...
No.
Oh, no, okay, never mind. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I think it's going to happen. I think next year is going to be a year of announcements. I do not think we are going to see any real big game releases like we did. Like this year, I think was an epic fucking game release year. It definitely will not be that next year. You
think we see God of War?
Oh, I forgot about God of War. Yeah.
Do you think it actually comes out?
Well, they haven't even shown gameplay from God of War, have they?
They have, but it's what they call a vertical slice.
So basically, let's see. Okay, so God of War, I think will come out next year. I don't think
know.
Last of Us 2 will come out.
God willing. God willing, that comes out in 20 to 30 years.
I forget.
I don't want any more of that.
I forget how bad a taste you have sometimes. I think. God, what else? I'm sorry, I just don't have much on the prediction front. Like that's also why I was kind of like, well, we couldn't, because I really just think next year is going to be kind of insignificant in the gaming space. I think there's going to be more talk about free-to-play games and whether the government should regulate it. And I think you might get some actual government members interested in doing it. I don't think it will actually happen next year.
For free-to-play stuff, or loot boxes, or both, or...
Yeah.
Okay, so
it'll be mainly focused... Like, loot boxes have the floor right now. But I also think that could bleed into free-to-play stuff where they're showing percentages for what are essentially loot boxes in free-to-play games. Like in Final Fantasy Brave Exvius when you draw a guy, or...
all the stuff on people's phones, like that's how your average person sort of interacts with this stuff.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's the angle.
I'm skeptical, though, our government will get anything done. I don't think they will. I think
that's probably fair.
I think that will...
Again, God willing.
I would like the government to put... okay, no, I wouldn't like the government to put regulations on this. What I would like is for fucking publishers to quit being douchebags and shoving this shit down our throat. But...
yeah, I had my big rant on that, 2 weeks ago.
But, yeah, no, I know those are kind of weak. Well, here, let me do a wild card one. I predict that the Switch is going to
bankrupt Nintendo.
You know what? They're going to make a Blaster Master Zero sequel. That's going to be an entirely new Blaster Master game. And it will be awesome.
Okay. Yep, that is insane.
So.
All right, so our next show is going to be on the 4th. Is that correct?
The 4th of
believe so.
January, yes.
Okay.
So,
Well, you guys enjoy your Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and whatever you do, and I guess we'll see all y'all next year, huh?
All y'all.
bye, guys. Okay, and we don't need show titles this time, so thanks for hanging out with us live, man, and
Yep, thanks, Bake.
talk to you later.
All right, bye, guys.